There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Order. Honorable members have been informed that the Whippery have agreed that there will be no notice of motions or motions without notice except the motion on the order paper. Okay, I thought you were complaining. Okay, we now come to motion on the order paper as printed in the name of the Chief Whip. Honorable Chief Whip.
Thank you, Chair. I so move, as we knew that we had to process the bills.
As there is no speaker's list, I shall now put a question, and the question is that the motion be agreed to, as the decision is dealt with in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I shall first ascertain whether all delegate heads are present in the chamber to cast their provincial votes. Are you present? Yes, in accordance with Rule 7.1, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. 3 minutes if there is any province that wish to do so. Is there any province that wish to do so? No, we shall now come to the voting. Can I plead with the members that we use our electronic system? Voting will commence. Only heads of delegation. It's a 65 decision. Have you all voted? All right, I'll do it for you. All 9 provinces voted in.
Consideration of Merchant Shipping International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund.
I think confusion of sort of, I've never heard about a point of confusion. It's not in the rules. But there was something which was not clear when we voted last week on the ruling on the point of the order that honorable members would recall that a mandate which vote.
Honorable Chairperson, all tankers.
Just to be clear with the members that we're dealing with order, the first order and the second order here. They will
transported in 1954, coiled the oil pull, 1954. The most important regulations for preventing pollution by oil from ships are contained in the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1973, as modified by the Protocol of 1978, referred 92, or fund is an international maritime treaty. The fund is required to indemnify the ship owner of his insurer in spills where a ship is in full compliance with the international conventions and no willful misconduct caused the spill. The passing of these 2 bills, Honourable Chairperson, will ensure that South Africa will avoid instances such as the 31 million rand paid in 2011 for the clean-up of the pollution damages caused by the tanker MV Phoenix. The merchant shipping contributions and administration bills form part of a package of 4 bills aiming to give effect to South Africa's international obligations regarding liability and compensation for damage caused by spills from oil tankers. The package of measures in the contributions and administration bills is designed to give effect to the Republic of South Africa's obligations under the Civil Liability Convention. The contribution bill aims to provide for the imposition of the International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund and contributions levy on persons referred to in Article 10 of the 1992 Fund Convention, and to provide for the manner in which the levy is determined, to provide that levies and interest due to be paid to the International Oil Pollution Compensation Fund are a direct charge against the National Revenue Fund, and to provide for matters connected therewith. The administration bill, on the other side, aims to provide for the administrative matters in connecting the levy imposed in terms of the Merchant Shipping Act of 2013 and to provide for matters connected therewith. Then, Honourable Chairperson, the administration bill will also empower the South African Revenue Service, SARS, to oversee the collection of the contributions with entities liable for payment and will have to register with SARS. The additional finances needed by SARS to administer the collection would be included in the budget, in each budget allocation. The Select Committee on Finance, having considered the Contributions Bill B41/2013, and which is a Section 77 bill, as well as the Administrative Bill B42 of 2013, and that is a Section 75 bill, report to the House that the committee agreed on these two bills, and I move that the House adopt it. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honourable members, that concludes the debate. I shall now put the question in respect of the first order. The question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish, and that is 3 minutes per party. Is there any party that want to do that? No? Okay. We shall proceed to the voting. On the question, members will vote by pressing the button in favor, against, or abstain. We'll use electronic voting. All of us are voting. It's a 75 bill. Voting has commenced. Those who have a problem with their electronic voting, just raise your hands. We will note you. Mama Temba. In favor, Shaldibia. In favor, Honorable Nyambi. Okay, Honorable Swande. Oh, you voted. Okay. Honorable Groenewald. In favor, Honorable Joseph. In favor, Honorable Mngube. In favor, Honorable Mnguni. In favor, Honorable Maluka. In favor, Honorable Dikale. In favor, Honorable Chief Whip. In favor. Can I get the results? 40 members have voted in favor. The majority of the members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Order, I shall now put a question in the respect of second order. The question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow the political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Is there any political party that wish to do so? None. We proceed to the voting electronically. We will then proceed with the voting. Honorable Temba. In favor, Honorable Dikale. In favor, Honorable Makunyane. In favor, Honorable... All right. It seems nothing is working. Just the whippery, help me quickly. Raise your hands, those who vote in favor. The whips will count quickly for me. Report to the staff, Honorable Ranto. 43. All right. What did you get? Okay. I'm told the minister doesn't vote is quite correct. The minister didn't vote, I'm sure. But the record from the table, I'm getting 42. Is it correct? Okay. So 42 have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the third order of the day.
Consideration of South African Postbank Limited Amendment Bill, Bill 25B of 2013, and of report of Select Committee on Labour and Public Enterprises thereon.
It's only one order, no, Penny? Yeah, it's one order. Honorable Temba.
Thank you, Chairperson, honorable members. The Select Committee on Labour and Public Enterprises, having considered and made deliberations on the South African Post Bank Limited Amendment Bill on 13th November 2013, wish to report as follows. The South African Post Limited Amendment Bill, Bill 25, 2013 main objective is to satisfy the requirements of South Africa's banking legislation. This is so since the South African Post Bank Limited Act, passed 2 years back by this House, exempted the Post Bank from the Banks Act. The effect of this exemption is that it provides the Post Bank with an unfair advantage over other registered banks as it stood to benefit from the award of a banking license without having met the Office for Banks licensing criteria or undergoing the same rigorous supervision as other registered banks. Chair, as we consider this bill, we welcome this amendment and convinced in our deliberation that indeed such an exemption would have compromised not only the Post Bank as an institution but also the principles of corporate governance from which the basis of every business entity in this country stands. The proposed amendments, therefore, are in keeping with the Office for Banks' mission, which is to promote the soundness of the domestic banking system and to minimize systematic risks through the effective and efficient application of international regulatory and supervisory standards. This mission, Chair, we cannot abdicate, as we all know too well that sound banking systems are vital in protecting our banking system from the intermittent risk imposed by the global financial system. The legitimacy and soundness of the amendments in this bill are evidenced by the thesis support stakeholders gave this bill, as they saw no reason either to oppose it nor to raise concerns, as the bill has taken due diligence in complying with all the relevant banking legislation. The committee in this regard recognizes the role played by the Department of Communication, the National Treasury, and the South African Reserve Bank through the Legislative Review Committee in ensuring that the establishment of the Post Bank does not contravene any of the banking legislations. Our support for this bill, Chair, is due to the fact that the purpose of establishing a Post Bank is merely to expand the range of banking services, in particular to rural and lower income markets, as well as communities that have little or no access to commercial banking services or facilities. This is, of course, a new phenomenon in the South African banking sector, where a state-owned bank gives particular attention to lower income markets or underdeveloped communities of our society. This is a clear indication of our government's commitment in creating a prosperous and caring society. In agreeing to this amendment, Chair, we are allowing the Post Bank to obtain a banking license that will swiftly lead to the Post Bank's operational corporatization as a stand-alone entity and a subsidiary of the South African Post Office, with the Minister responsible for the Department of Communications as the representative shareholder of government. We, as the committee, request the House to support the bill. I thank you, Chair.
Honorable member, that concludes the debate. I shall now put a question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any political party? No. We shall proceed to the voting. All of us are voting. The voting will commence. Yasebenza imshini yenu? Ayisebenzi? All right, we count again. Though I will take it that those who don't raise their hands, they voted electronically. Those who are in favor, raise your hands if you have not voted electronically. Mr. Mufukeng? Mr. Mngube? Mrs. Mngube, I'm sorry, Honorable? Yes. In favor? Oh. Honorable member? In favor? Honorable Becker? In favor? Honorable Tau? In favor. The staff will bring me the results. 42 members have voted in favor, therefore the majority of members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 675 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the fourth order of the day.
Consideration of South African Languages Practitioners Council Bill, Bill 14B of 2013, and of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation thereon.
And I call upon the Honorable Makate.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Members of Parliament. The main purpose of the bill is to provide for the establishment of the South African Language Practitioners Council, to provide for the object, powers, duties, and functions of the Council, to determine the manner in which the Council is to be managed, governed, staffed, and financed, to regulate the training of language practitioners, and to provide control of the accreditation and registration of language practitioners. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, the Select Committee proposed some of the following amendments to the bill. On page 1, in the 6th line, after National Assembly, to insert Section 75. On page 4, in line 2, after definitions, to insert end application. On page 4, in line 34, to omit the Portfolio Committee and to substitute with Parliament. On page 5, after line 11 and before line 12, to insert the following new clause, application of Act. On page 5, from line 25, to omit paragraph B, C, and D, and to rearrange the sequence of the sentences as follows. B, scrutinize particulars of people intending to register. C, register people who are registerable by the Council. D, accredit people who are accreditable by the Council. On page 8, in line 7, after Constitution, to insert of the Republic of South Africa, 1996. The Select Committee on Education and Recreation, having considered the subject of the South African Language Practitioners Bill, Council Bill, B14B 2013, referred to it and classified by the joint taking mechanism as a Section 75 bill, reports the bill for the adoption by this House with the proposed amendments. I thank you.
Honourable members, that concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. The question is that the bill be agreed to subject to the proposed amendments. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any party that wish to do so? None. We shall therefore proceed to voting. We will use our electronic voting system. Voting commences. It's a 75. All of us are voting. Everybody has voted? Mr. Dibia? Okay, Ms. Makate? I'm sorry, Ms. Khasmani? It's okay now. Ms. Grunewald, it's okay, all right. I'll ask the staff to give me the results. 42 members have voted in favor, therefore the majority of members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill subject to the proposed amendments agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 5th and the 6th orders of the day.
Consideration of Judicial Matters Second Amendment Bill, Bill 51 of 2013, and Judicial Matters Amendment Bill, Bill 7D of 2013, and of reports of Select Committee on Security and Constitutional Development thereon.
I now call upon the Honorable Mufke.
Thank you, Chairperson. The purpose of the bill is to amend numerous acts administered by the department and which are intended to address practical and technical issues of a non-contentious nature. The introduced bill consisted of 49 clauses and was tagged as Section 75 bill. The bill was, however, retagged as a Section 76 bill by the joint taking mechanism, since 6 clauses may affect the provinces. In order to expedite the processing of the bill, the 6 clauses were excised from the bill and are being dealt with in a separate committee bill. The bill seeks to amend the certain practical and technical issues in the following legislation: Magistrates Courts Act 1944, Criminal Procedure Act 1977, Attorneys Act 1979, Small Claims Court Act 1984, Judicial Service Commission Act 1994, and Child Justice Act 2008. On Judicial Matters Second Amendment Bill, the purpose of the bill is to amend the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2007 of sexual offences-related matters so as to enable the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development to designate certain courts for purpose of dealing with sexual offences and to provide for matters connected therewith. The Judicial Matters Second Amendment Bill therefore allows the Minister to designate regional courts as sexual offences courts. The committee agreed to Judicial Matters Amendment Bill and the Judicial Matters Second Amendment without proposed amendment. It is therefore recommended that the House pass the bill as agreed to. Thank you.
Honorable members, that concludes the debate. I shall now put a question in respect of the 5th order. The question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall allow parties to give their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any political party that wish to do so? No. We then proceed to voting. We'll do that electronically. It's a 75. All of us are voting. Voting commences. Okay, I see a lot of hands. Can we then, those in favor, raise your hands. Whips, help me to calculate, please. Those who vote against? Those who abstain? We have 42 members who have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. I shall now put a question in respect of the sixth order of sixth order. The question is that the bill be agreed to in terms of Rule 63 of the rules. I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any political party that wish to do so? None. We therefore proceed to voting. Let's check whether our electronic voting is working. Okay. Voting has commenced. All right. I see some few hands. That means the electronic voting is not working. Honorable Makubela, how are you voting? Those who vote in favor? In favor. Honorable Dikale? In favor. Honorable Temba?
In favor.
In favor. Honorable Mnube? You voted? You voted, okay. Those three members have voted in favor. Staff will now give me the results. There's nobody voting against and there's nobody abstaining. Therefore, the 42 members have voted in favor. Therefore, the majority of the members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the seventh order of the day.
Consideration of South African Weather Services Amendment Bill, Bill 23B of 2013, and of report of Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs thereon.
I call Honorable Kikane.
Chairperson, thank you. Honorable members, Honorable Minister, good morning. The South African Weather Service Amendment Bill, B23B 2013. The main objective of the bill seeks to amend certain sections of the South African Weather Service Act 2001, Act number 8 of 2001. The SAWS Act was promulgated on the 2nd June 2001 and came into operation on the 15th of July 2001. The purpose of this SAWS Act is to establish the South African Weather Service as a jurisdictional person and to determine its objectives, function, and method of work. The SAWS Act further prescribes the manner in which the weather service is to be managed and governed, including staff and financial matters. The overall function of the weather service is to provide meteorological services over South Africa. The SAWS Bill seeks to amend the SAWS Act as to substitute and insert certain definition, to provide the Minister with policy, determination, and supervisory powers, to extend the powers, objectives, and functions of weather service, so as to provide the weather service with legal mandate to provide abundant as quality service and to act as custodian of South African air quality. Chair, the Information Service to provide the appointment and removal of the Chief Executive Officer, to align the Act with the Public Finance Management Act 1999 by providing for the board to be accounting authority for the weather service, to delete certain absolute provision, to provide for the limitation of liability of weather service, to provide for offences and penalties, to amend the schedules to the Act, and to provide for the matters connected therewith. After receiving a briefing by the department, a clause-by-clause analysis of the bill was conducted, and the provinces present deliberated on the amendments. The Select Committee on Land and Environment Affairs, having deliberated on and considered the subject of South African Weather Service Amendment Bill, B23B 2013, Section 75, classified by the JTM as a Section 75 bill and referred to the committee on the 12th of November 2013, agrees to the bill without amendments. I thank you, Chair.
That concludes the bill. The debate. I shall now put a question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Is there any? None. We proceed to the voting. Check your electronic voting whether it works. Let's do it electronically. Inikeza isikashana izawuvota. Everybody voted? All right. Those who are in favor, who their machines are not working, Honorable Dikale? In favor, Honorable Mukhobi? In favor, Honorable Temba?
Voted.
Voted. Honorable de Villiers, so we voted. Honorable Muntsitse? In favor? Right. Voted. Anybody who vote against? Abstain? No. Let me get the results. 43 members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 8th order of the day.
Consideration of Employment Equity Amendment Bill, Bill 31B of 2012, and of report of Select Committee on Labour and Public Enterprises thereon.
I now call upon the Honourable Minister of Labour to deliver the address.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chair, honorable members of the National Council of Provinces, esteemed guests, I'm honored to introduce a number of important amendments to the Employment Equity Act number 55 of 1998. These amendments are contained in the Employment Equity Amendment Bill of August 2013. Let the House note that these are the first amendments to the Employment Equity Act since it was enacted in 1998. The main purpose of the Employment Equity Act is the elimination of unfair discrimination and the implementation of affirmative action measures to bring about equitable workplaces across all occupational levels. This is in line with the work of the ANC government, which has worked tirelessly in changing lives of ordinary South Africans for the better, and for which we can proudly say life is better than it was before 1994. Unfortunately, some of the employers have refused or unwilling to make a leap of faith with regards to transformation. Reports received from employers over the past 15 years clearly show that not much progress has been made. Whites and males, particularly white males, continue to dominate in the middle to upper echelons of organizations, according to the report by the Commission for Employment Equity for the 2012 reporting period. It is clear that the legislation has not induced any serious transformation in the upper echelons where real decisions are taken. It is also clear that the patterns as noted above will not lead to any different results in any time soon. The current amendments for employment equity, therefore, could not have come at a better time. The main aim of this bill is to give the effect to fundamental constitutional rights, including the right to equality, fair labor practice, and protection against unfair discrimination, to strengthen the implementation enforcement mechanism of the Act, and to ensure that South Africa complies and meets its obligations in terms of the International Labour Organization standards. The proposed amendments have gone through a rigorous process with the initial advice coming from the Commission for Employment Equity. This process included
Can you please hold your caucus in a very soft manner and listen as the Minister is debating, opening the debate on the bill. Continue, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chair. This process included adopting strategies to engage the public and other stakeholders through public hearings, briefings, and availing the bill on the department's website for public comment. Furthermore, vigorous engagement took place with organized labor, organized business, government, and community at NEDLEC. Those are the social partners. These engagements culminated in substantial revision to the initial 2010 version of the bill before it was subjected to further parliamentary scrutiny. And I must say, Chairperson, all the social partners at NEDLEC have supported these amendments. Some of the key amendments contained in the Employment Equity Amendment Bill include, amongst others, the following. Firstly, amendment on the definition of designated groups. Beneficiaries of affirmative actions are now clarified and limited to persons who were citizens of South Africa before the democratic era, that is 27 April 1994, and their descendants, or those who would have been entitled to citizenships, but due to apartheid policies were not afforded such. Foreign nationals or those that became citizens after 1994 do not assist employers to achieve their AA targets and goals at the expense of designated South Africans. Secondly, equal pay for work of equal value. New sections are inserted to deal explicitly with unfair discrimination by employers in respect of terms and conditions of employment of employees doing the same work, similar work, or work of equal value. I must specify this, Chairperson, that on this particular clause, we have also included the contract workers, that even if you are employed as the contract worker, as you do the work that is done by the permanent worker, you must be paid equally. The third one is strengthening compliance and enforcement mechanisms. Securing written undertakings and issuing of compliance orders by labor inspectors were mandatory, even if a designated employer did not comply with the law at all. Securing written undertakings and issuing of compliance orders by labor inspectors have been made discretionary in the bill, which may result in non-complying employers being referred directly to the labor court for a fine. The fourth one is the arbitration at the CCMA. Introduction of arbitration at the CCMA, and not just conciliation in terms of current provisions for certain unfair discrimination disputes at the CCMA. This will allow employees an option of referring unfair discrimination cases for arbitration in the CCMA in two circumstances. If the employee's cause of action arises from an allegation of sexual harassment on a prescribed ground, or lower paid employees, I'm talking about those who are earning less than the threshold prescribed under Section 6.3 of the BCEA, who will be entitled to refer any discrimination claim to the CCMA for arbitration. And further, amendment of Schedule 1 on fines, stroke penalties. Schedule 1 of fines has not increased since the inception of the Act, and now have been increased and linked to the turnover for non-compliance in order to avoid any circumvention of the Act. Honorable Chairperson and members, when this bill is enacted, the department, together with the CEE, which is constituted of all social partners, will prioritize the finalization of the regulations to bring them in line with the new amendments, and it will ensure necessary systems changes to implement them. Thereafter, the department will embark on public information sessions for stakeholders on the changes, how they may affect them, and what should be done to implement them properly. I would also like to call on all our social partners to put their efforts together to ensure that these amendments are implemented. I have noted with great concern the draconian and zwart-gevaar tactics utilized by the DA to demonize the proposed amendment to score political points. Let me remind them once more, like organized business has already done in the newspapers, there are no provisions in the amendment bill that sets or promotes any racial quotas or absolute barriers. In fact, the law is clear that employers, in consultation with their own employees, must conduct an analysis of their workplaces, prepare and implement their own plan by setting their own targets that is informed by the outcome of analysis and report to the Department of Labor. And it's unfortunate that the members of the Portfolio Committee who supported these amendments were taken out of the Portfolio Committee and redeployed to another committee. Let me thank all those who have contributed towards these amendments, including the Commission for Employment Equity, social partners at NETLEC, the Portfolio Committee, and Select Committee for their commitment and extensive engagement in order to bring the Employment Equity proposed amendment to its finality. Most importantly, let me thank the public, particularly those individuals and groups who give their time to ensure that South Africa one day, hopefully soon, becomes a fair and equitable society where race, gender, and disability should not matter. With the above in mind, Honorable Chair, I hereby table and recommend the adoption of the Employment Equity Amendment Bill. I thank you.
I now call upon the Honorable Temba. Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Special Delegates, Honorable Members, comrades and friends. There are very few people in this country who are fundamentally opposed to the object of the Employment Equity and Affirmative Action. What amazes me and many others, though, is that these minority views that find prime space in all forms of media. I've also observed that in the high courts of this land, there are instances where the bench does not reach consensus on a particular case, but the majority decision stands as the final decision. I haven't seen the minority view being given more prominence than the majority decision. Why is it the opposite in the case of the Employment Equity and Affirmative? Why is good news not celebrated in this country? And why does it not make the front papers of our tabloids or headlines in the electronic media? I still haven't met someone to explain this to me beyond the commercial considerations doctrine that bad news sells the newspapers. Chair, the constitution of this land is hailed as one of the best in the world, and there are not many people in this country who have expressly stated their objection to all or any part of the constitution as being backwards. It is precisely for this reason that our constitution is considered a source of inspiration for many in this country and beyond our borders, I dare say. This is an achievement, despite the minority that voted against it. Let us march for South Africa to celebrate this achievement. Yes, we must give this today to the media. We need this to be in the headlines, to be in Ligwalagwala, in Kwekwezi, in Mhlobo Wenene. The people of South Africa must realize what we have done. Then why this aggressive opposition to any attempt to give meaning to this very constitution? I think the reason is nothing other than cheap politicking that seeks to rubbish every effort to change the pre-1994 status quo. Others have gone to the extreme extent of adopting Adolf Hitler's doctrine of, I quote, "If you tell a pig enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed." Why is the employment equity and affirmative action policies attacked so much by those who have benefited so much from the apartheid policies of the past? Let me remind you that Freedom Charter, a document that finds resonance with the Constitution of this country, states in no ambiguous terms that all shall be equal before the law and that people shall share. I do know that in cases where the society does not share or care about the have-nots tend to loot from the haves. This is not sustainable. Honorable Chair, can you imagine if inequality was liquidated in our society? How that would harness harmony and social cohesion? Just imagine a society where the color of your skin did not determine what job you get, what kind of house you can afford, where you can live, and which schools you could take your children. Unfortunately, that is exactly what the apartheid policy did to our society. I cannot understand in a society where there is no one who openly admits to have supported apartheid, where everyone agrees that apartheid was crime to humanity and that it was evil. There are still people who disagree with employment, equity, and affirmative action policies. Chair, so I argue that the culprit of our ugly past found expression in the workplace. Fixing and transforming the workplace is therefore a logical starting point if we are to succeed in dealing with inequality of this country. At the heart of the employment equity is the desire to reverse the apartheid social engineering best described in George Orwell's timeless book called The Animal Farm, where pigs think they are more equal than others. We do not need that in South Africa. There should be no one who is more equal than others. Who can stand up and publicly state that they are against equality? Honorable Chair and members, I submit that the most effective and possibly quickest way to achieve the equality espoused in our Constitution and the Employment Equity Bill as the instrument to achieve it, and then perhaps that is needed is to the ruling party to be more assertive in executing its mandate. Let me recall, honorable members, that the ruling party was given a mandate by the electorate to speed up transformation. We were all sent here to fulfill, among others, things that very mandate. We would have failed in our duty if we ignored the mission. I've never heard of any law that was perfect, but I'm told by those who know better that law evolves. It is all about doing and learning, fine-tuning and retooling. We must take every opportunity to ensure that our laws take sovereignty of this country as its point of departure and find the delicate balance with international and other best practices. The recent judgment in Solidarity versus Correctional Services case can only serve to strengthen the law. Therefore, there is no need to be negative, Honorable Liz, to be negative about it, but learn. I know that the bill before us takes that into account in a constructive and forward-looking manner. Let us not apologize for introducing the kinds of amendments that are in this employment equity bill. This is for the future of this country, and it is the right thing to do. Those opposing the bill are being short-sighted and they do not realize that we are actually bringing the missing ingredients to sustainability, which they will find useful going forward. The ANC cares about all the people of this country. Compliance with the employment equity in its current form leaves much to be desired. It is unacceptable, Chair, that for so many years after the advent of the employment equity, the country is still so far away from achieving the desired levels of workplace transformation. Some designated employers are quite comfortable to ignore the law and instead budget for penalties when caught out. Some have perfected their methods of taking advantage of the fact that at times appear to have no teeth. The bill gives the inspectors real teeth. So if you step out of line, the inspectors will bite you and believe you will feel the impact. Equal pay for work of equal value should be a no-brainer, really. If the principle of equality is fundamental, then this should not be a problem. The new section in the bill to deal explicitly with unfair discrimination by an employer in respect of the terms and conditions of employment of employees doing the same similar work or work of equal value will help us to address this aspect. The unions must make sure that they educate the workers. A differentiation based on grounds listed in Section 6, subsection 1, or any other arbitrary ground will amount to unfair discriminatory unless the employer can show that differences in wages or other conditions of employment are based on fair criteria such as experience, skills, and responsibility. The bill empowers the Minister of Labour to publish a code of good practice dealing with criteria and methodologies for assessing work of equal value. Chairperson, I want to remind this House that all of us sitting here do so on the basis of having taken an oath to promote the ideals enshrined in the Constitution of this country. What a better way to demonstrate this commitment other than passing these amendments. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you for your perseverance and vision in driving this process despite the prophets of doom. The critics in the media and those who are not friends of progress will be mitigated by the knowledge that these amendments by the majority of our people and the workers in particular. To members of the Select Committee on Labour and Public Enterprises, I would like to thank you very much for your hard work and robust debate, which are useful as they can only lead to a better
Your
product.
time has expired, Honourable
Thank you.
Member.
It's about them.
Yeah, that was indeed a good speech. Eh? Okay, I want to acknowledge from the gallery our visitors from Nigeria, and it's a delegation from the Public Service Commission. You are welcomed in the House. Thank you very much. I now call upon the Honourable Member Lees.
Honourable Chair, iDA iyavuma ukuthi silungise indaba eyenzeke ngesikhathi seapartheid. iDA iyavuma ukuthi kufunakala silungise lezi zinto ezibi iyayenzeka. Kodwa ayike indlela eyodwa kuyilungisa lento. zikhona indlela eziningi. Honourable Chair, the DA unequivocally supports measures to redress the wrongs of the past. Whilst our support for redress is unconditional, our support for specific redress tools is conditional on whether they will expand opportunities for those disadvantaged under apartheid. Honourable Chair, we believe that this bill is a blunt tool that will harm our redress objectives more than it will help. This is because this bill in its current form will slow down the economy and cost our people jobs. It will do so by introducing a punitive compliance regime on companies. It will do so by imposing exorbitant fines on business, including small businesses. It will do so by assuming that there is an endless pool of suitably qualified candidates in every sector when there simply is not. It is for these reasons that we opposed many of the amendments, not all, many of the amendments proposed in the bill. We oppose the amendment to Section 42 that will leave it up to the Director General or the Minister to decide on whether or not to take into account the size of the pool of suitably qualified candidates when considering compliance. We oppose giving the Minister vast discretionary powers which will result in the employment equity being run by ministerial discretion instead of by law passed by Parliament. We oppose the repeal of Sections 39 and 40 because this effectively removes the right of employers to appeal or object against a compliance order and adds to the, yes, draconian approach that the department takes to enforcing employment equity. The bill trebles the minimum amount that a company may be fined for non-compliance with employment equity. We oppose this on the grounds that such fines would sink many vulnerable and small businesses at the cost of jobs. Under the 1998 Act, businesses with 50 or more employees had to submit employment equity reports once every 2 years. The amendment bill requires reports every year. This creates an additional administrative burden for small businesses and is a deterrent to business growth.
Can you just stop?
Is the honourable member, who's not even the member of the committee, ready to take a question to clarify South Africans?
Madam Chair, I'm not ready to take a question, and I do not understand what clarifying South Africans means. In terms of the 1998 Act, the onus to disprove employee allegations of unfair discrimination rests with the employer. This increases the likelihood of costly, divisive, and vexatious allegations. Not only does the amendment bill retain this problematic clause, but in addition it narrowly defines the criteria that an employer may use in order to disprove an allegation of discrimination. Honourable Chair, let me make this clear. We support programs that broaden opportunities for disadvantaged persons. We acknowledge that disadvantage still significantly overlaps with race. We reject programs that seek to enrich a few elites.
Honourable Liz, can you just stop for a second? Honourable Dow. Try next door, Dow.
Obviously, no one wants him to speak.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Is it parliamentary to mislead the House? I don't want to make, I want to put a direct question. Is it parliamentary? Because I know why I'm saying that.
You know deep down in your heart it's not.
If it is not, Chair, may the honourable member therefore withdraw the statement that says the DA supports this bill, because according to the records of the committee, the DA objected to the entire bill which is misleading now what he's saying.
Order. Honorable Liz, can
I
we
await
make
your
a
ruling,
clarity?
Madam. May I continue?
Can you make a clarity around that?
I have no clarity to make. I have not stated that we support the bill, so the Honourable Tower, in fact, is out of order. Madam Chair, I
Members,
believe I require
please behave.
protection.
Can you instigated it anyway. Continue.
Madam Chair, on a point of order, please. Is it parliamentary for a member of this House to instruct me at the podium to expose myself?
You have the answer. Honorable Liz, can you conclude because your time is over?
Madam Chair, I see I have 1.56 minutes left. Madam Chair, we support appropriate measures
Honourable
to
Liz.
advance corrective action.
Honorable Liz, there's a point of order.
Ngababalandeli be-DA ingakumbe bangemhlophe bayanazi banimele ucalucalulo namhlanje na.
Honorable Liz.
Sorry, I'm not sure, Madam Chair. Are you saying I may continue?
Chief, no, I didn't. Chief Whip has posed a question to
I'm
you.
not prepared to take a question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Say so. Continue.
We support appropriate measures to advance corrective action with a focus on investing in the long-term potential of employees and to promote diversity through training, mentoring, and career pathing. We support balanced qualitative processes to promote diversity. These will inevitably, Madam Chair, given our sad history of racial discrimination, include racial preference, but they must exclude racial quotas. It is our view that an incentive-based system of encouraging corrective action measures is appropriate, and that punitive measures to impose racial representativity are counterproductive. We remain convinced that economic growth and the associated job creation, as well as quality education, are the most powerful tools to achieve the universally acknowledged need for redress of the evils of colonialism and apartheid. Anything that prevents job-creating economic growth is a barrier to redress, and thus we will oppose this bill. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Honorable Plaki.
Yes.
Deputy
Chairperson, the Employment Equity Amendment Bill published on the 19th October 2012 signifies the first proposed amendment to the Employment Equity Act number 55 of 1998 since its enactment in 1998. The new Amendment Equity Act will make it compulsory for all employers, irrespective of size, to submit their annual employment equity plans with the Department of Labor. The amendments further seek to enforce strict adherence to the labor laws and ensure equal payment for work of equal value contemplated in Section 6 of the Principal Act. In most areas, the landscape still depicts a huge gap between the rich and the poor. The workplaces do not take into account both the national and provincial demographics. According to the Employment Equity Commission report, there still exists Master Herald and the boy situation in our labor force. It is indeed unacceptable. It is unacceptable, Chair, that an affluent male minority continue to occupy fairly most of the top management position. Where is equity and redress? It is really unacceptable that majority of workforce still occupy subservient position, particularly women, and enjoys unfair labor practices. It is indeed unacceptable, Chair. This bill, in my opinion, Chair, will definitely enforce compliance and strict adherence to our labor laws. The labor inspectors are empowered to issue compliance order to employer who refuses to give written undertakings. It is worth noting that the amendment abolished the discrimination treatment of workers within a particular workplace. It also allowed the minister, after consultation with the commission, to prescribe the criteria and the methodology for assessing work of equal value as contemplated in Section 4 of the Principal Act. Congress of the People therefore believes that the proposed insertion of Section 64A, which empowers the minister to amend the total annual turnover threshold to encounter the effect of the inflation, is in order. Chair, I therefore rise on behalf of the Congress of the People to support the bill. The reason to support this bill, it is because we believe that the bill will give effect to the fundamental constitutional rights to equality, fair labor practice, and protection against the unfair discrimination. The previously apartheid regime has left our country with a divided and very unequal society. In 1994, Chair, South Africa became a constitutional democracy led by government which strives to serve all the people in our country regardless of their color and creed. I personally support the consideration of demographics in the workplaces. Therefore, there should be serious consequences for those employers who fail to abide by the law. Thank you very much, Chair.
Honorable Jacobs.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Chief Whip, delegates and special delegates, Molweni. Chair, I just want to ask DA a question, whether don't they have a confidence in Mr. Groenewald? Mr. Groenewald is the member of the Labor and Public Enterprise Committee. He has not been given the opportunity to come to the podium. Just like when we debated in the Select Committee, Mr. Lees was his spokesperson. So I'm having the ANC forms. He must come to the ANC and join the ANC. My entry point in this debate is to remind the people of South Africa, and the DA in particular, and its cohorts, about our historic relationship, which has kept the African National Congress and the Congress of South African Trade Union going for all these decades. Since the formation of the ANC, it has always been about the people and the working class. The ANC has never shied away and is not doing any favor to workers to improve their lives for the better, by consistently legislating laws that seeks to improve their lives. Since its inception, it was all about the workers because the ANC understands the strategic role workers have to play in our communities. This is the reason why the ANC never sold out and derives the workers' rights from the Freedom Charter. Let me quote some of the clauses as a matter of emphasis. I quote, "We, the people of South Africa, declare for all our country and the world to know that only a democratic state based on the will of the people can secure to all their birthrights without distinction of color, race, sex, or belief. There shall be work and security. Men and women of all races shall receive equal pay for equal work. Employment equity is not a fiction and does not come out of the blue because some of their clauses are derived from our Bible, the Freedom Charter. Our relationship with the workers is a history of blood, sweat, and tears, which bonded us together into a revolutionary alliance. This alliance is an alliance of sacrifice, an alliance which is signed in blood by those who fought for justice, democracy, and peace. We will never shy away in legislating laws which are pro-workers. Chickens have come home to roost for DA. Thanks to Madame Zille to show her true colors and that of her party at such an early stage of our democracy. It confirms what we have been telling our people, especially the black voters, that the DA has never and will never be a black man's sanctuary. The relationship of being a master and a servant still persists in Madame Zille's organization. Blacks are only good to garner votes for Umlungu in order to promote their neoliberal policies and those of monopoly capital.
Jacobs?
And the black people.
Honorable Jacobs, can you just hold on? Honorable Liz, what's your point of order?
Honourable Chair, is it parliamentary for a member of this House to refer to another member of this House as Madam Zille? And if it is not, which I believe it is not, I request that those two remarks to that effect be withdrawn.
Chair,
Honorable Chief Whip.
Chair, thank you very much. The Honorable Member Jacobs didn't say Zille. He respectfully said Madam Zille, which is correct and right.
Is it a further?
Honourable Chair, thank you for the Chief Whip's clarification. So that means in future I am entitled to refer to any member of this House who is female as Madam, and I will no longer use the term Honourable.
Choice is yours. Continue.
how can a progressive organization deny workers laws that seeks to redress the inequalities of the past? Where does the DA derive its mandate from? The U-turn that has been taken by DA in the NCOP in voting against the bill, whereas they voted in favor of the bill in the National Assembly. It shows its fallacy, hypocrisy, and a party who has become bankrupt of ideas.
Order. Continue.
They can fool the public through media, but they cannot fool us. Madam Zille was well aware about the position that was going to be taken about their parliamentary caucus. It was when the media and the monopoly capital started to question her allegiance that she began to retreat and look for scapegoats. the DA Parliamentary Caucus had to take the brunt, especially the Black Caucus. And Honorable Mutau, its previous shadow minister, had to take the brunt and became a victim. Who is in control in the DA? Is its members or big business? It is without doubt that monopoly capital is in collusion with DA. All laws that they want to introduce are pro-business, and they've got nothing to do with the poor and the working class. And their choice of big business is not a mistake, because they are sponsors. It cannot be an incident of history that the head of Cape Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Michael Bargrain, should renege from the decision taken by Busa and Neglet to support the bill, only later for Mr. Bargrain to say Busa did not support the bill. It is the modus operandi that was used by DA, the National Assembly, to support the bill, only to renege later in the NCOP. This is what Mr. Bargrain said. I quote him verbatim. Surely, we have reached a stage where we should dismantle race-based laws and not tighten them. The question is, to whose advantage and to whose expense? Let me remind him that they are stinking rich because they have exploited the workers of this country by making millions and billions of rands out of their sweat. Is it wrong for the ANC when it seeks to redress these imbalances through passing legislation? Come on, Mr. Bargrain. I hear Madam Zile's voice in you. Let me advise Mr. Bargrain that race-based laws will only be dismantled when the majority of people of this country really have a stake in the welfare of the country. You should be assisting the ANC-led government to be moving in that direction. In actual fact, what is it that you are doing as business to redistribute wealth? What programs do you have that indicates that you really want to assist the workers of this country to live a better life? A political analyst and one of DA's political thinkers, Mr. R.W. Johnson, has this to say about DA and how he characterizes his organization. I quote, "The whole of DA's advance since 1994 has taken place under white leaders, and the party has gained at every election. That process must continue, irrespective of the leader color. Similarly, there is no point in chasing black middle class if that means discarding liberal principles. You simply end up with the party that does not know what it believes in, like the old United Party. Any leader who reduces the party to such a state will go down as is Neville Chamberlain, nor is Churchill. That is far too high a price to pay. One can only come to the following conclusion. DA is and will remain a neoliberal party whose policies will always favor monopoly capital. DA is a white-dominated party and will remain as such. Blacks will always be used as pawns to boost DA's advance at every election and do not have a future in this organization. Is every patriotic South African, especially the blacks, a far too high price to pay by voting for such an organization? I rest my case.
Honorable Maloka.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Chairperson, I first would like to acknowledge the presence of Minister Oliphant. We usually called her in Ndlovukazi. She was the leader, worker leader. And today, really, we are proud. I'm proud that he's the one who's presenting this, this bill in front of us, having had the experience, having tasted the oppression of a worker through all her senses. And I think this really makes, puts smiles on the souls of Vuisilemini, on the souls of Elijah Bahai, on the souls of Chris Dlamini, and recently on the soul of Ubaba Gomomo, who have been fighting tirelessly for us to be where we are today. And history informs that equity never existed at the workplace since time immemorial. And many souls were lost, struggles were launched with this desperation to get equity and equality at the workplace. And I think that those who are opposed to this would have really to be taken back to classics, starting from Adam Smith, right through to Alexander Hamilton, right through to Frederick List. And I think they'll have really to take those elementary classes to check where have we been, where do we come from to this date. So the list is endless. So also checking the history of our struggle, the history of African National Congress, 100 years in this, fighting side by side with the workers of the world. So, and I think all these claims that have been done today that some parties have history and today they can claim the history of other parties like African National Congress is really critical. Members of National Council of Provinces, special delegates, distinguished guests, that's the history. I used to be a worker at Checkers, and I know what is job reservation. Because people, your jobs were reserved for certain people, irrespective of what qualification they had. I had matric by that time, but I went there and I was still a shelf packer and also sometimes a till packer. And I left there to pursue other avenues in the name of this. So just boys and girls who did not even go to school because of their color, they were my supervisors. There were all these other things that you could find there. So that's the history. Further, that the time was characterized by half black force, half black labor force, twice the production, and triple the profit. That is what we call 1/2-3. And I wish that we had time, Deputy Chairperson, for us to take our colleagues through all these things. This bill is bad news for employers, especially those that are aspiring to exploit our workers. And this really is intended to address past discrepancies. It ensures equity and equality. It ensures heavy fines for exploiters. It's inclusive. It addresses exploitation. It's compliant to Economic Employment Act, number 53 of 2003. It prohibits discriminatory dismissals. It ensures work of equal value. It empowers the minister to publish a code of good practice dealing with criteria and methodologies for assessing work of equal value. It allows room for employees to refer disputes regarding below threshold monthly earning to CCMA, unfair discrimination on grounds of sexual harassment. Chairperson, this is really bad news for bad employers, in that employers who fail to produce and implement employment equity plans are going to be subjected to heavy fines. There's going to be reporting, monitoring, and enforcement of the law. The employer is going to be obliged to eradicate disproportionate income differentials. Equal pay for work of equal value is going to be ensured. Employers who don't add obligations to their IR practices and planning are going to face the wrath of the law. Labor brokers' clients are going to be forced to absorb employees who have been with them longer than 6 months. Deputy Chairperson, it is only the slave master and the house slave that would oppose this bill. The minister has done her responsibility and her work. Ours is to support this bill. Thank you, we support this bill.
Madam Chair, on a point of order, I wish to request that the last speaker withdraw his remark that refers. Madam Chair, it is a point of order and I request your protection.
Honorable Liz.
I request that the previous speaker withdraw his comment that said that those who oppose the bill are slave masters.
Honorable Liz. The Speaker had concluded his debate. Number two, do me a favor. If you're addressing me, don't shout. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I have a ruling, please? Could I please have a ruling on my point of order?
The ruling has fallen down. There's no speaker there, and sit down. Honorable Kaya.
Mama. Thank you, Honorable Chair, and all presiding officers gathered here, honorable members, fellow South Africans and our visitors. Today is the day when Tatu Bishop Tutu met Ukhrot Krogodel to discuss an approach in terms of how he was going to participate in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission on this day, the 21st of November. In Utatu Botha's statement, one indicated that he was not going to participate in the TRC. Secondly, that he was not going to apologize for apartheid. And thirdly, that reconciliation can only happen if we simply agree that we are starting from scratch. By implication, those who have just continue having, and those who do not have, start from the base. Lift yourself with your shoe straps, even if you don't even have shoes. So that was the argument, and it sounds so nicely here. Why do we support this bill? We support it for the sake of our country. And I think those people who do not have 2 passports, who do not have many homes to go to, I suspect the gut feel told them that it would be wrong for us to support this because it will affect our children. I suspect they refuse to be political askaris who, for their own survival, on a short-term basis, will destroy even their great-grandchildren. I suspect that the gut feel came to the fore. In 1969, the ANC made this observation, that it is inconceivable for liberation to have meaning without a return of the wealth of the land to the people as a whole.
It is therefore a fundamental feature of our strategy that victory must embrace more than formal political democracy to allow the existing economic forces to retain their interests intact is to feed the root of racial supremacy and does not represent even the shadow of liberation, unquote. The apartheid preceding segregationist governments used various instruments to ensure that the majority of the people in the country are pushed outside the mainstream of the economy. And here we must make a distinction because people are insulting Verwoerd, including Afrikaners who benefited, who actually are surviving today because of him. Before him were many. Many laws were enacted, our lives were destroyed. Not by the Afrikaners, they were not in power then. We can make reference to them in 1948 only. And therefore, even those who classify themselves as liberals today, in South Africa, you could not have been one. You had to choose either to be this side or that side because you were either a beneficiary or a loser. What you have today is because you participated. Therefore, nobody can claim today that they are in any way liberal. We know that the history of the workplace in South Africa is closely tied with our long and painful political and social history under white domination and various colonial regimes. But built on the fundamental principle of apartheid, segregation, and exclusion, the apartheid workplace was defined by 5 main characteristics. The racial division of labor, 2, racial power structure, 3, a system of migrant labor, 4, the spatial location of workplaces in what is called bifurcated geography, and also the segregation of work facilities based on race. Our democratic transition also sharply targeted the workplace as an arena of struggle and transformation and repealed the legislation that buttressed these practices. Our aim was simple: to transform the apartheid workplace and construct a workplace regime premised on equality. Among other pieces of legislation, employment equity is our guiding light in achieving this aim. 2 sociologists, Carl von Holt and Andres Bezetenote, and I think the Premier Zille must actually visit von Holt because he comes from her motherland. And he will help her. I think he will help her. And they say, although government and labor have done much to affect such a transformation, there are some instances in which some aspects of the apartheid regime have survived into the post-apartheid workplace order. This is what these honorable Germans are saying. And they continue. The point here is that one cannot expect to find a workplace regime in contemporary South Africa in which all features and facets of the apartheid workplace regime has been eliminated for the simple reason that 14 years is by far not time enough to undo and to replace formal and informal workplace conventions and a system of labor relations that was entrenched over a period of some 300 years. This has produced what has been called a neo-apartheid workplace regime. That's what we're talking about now. Even with this observation, those who believe that real transformation relies on individuals will continue to agitate against employment equity and the amendment to this bill. We were not oppressed as individuals. We were oppressed as groups. The private sector is one area where this neo-apartheid workplace regime is firmly entrenched. We all know what the latest employment equity report pronounced. For our own benefit, let us be reminded, because we tend to forget these things. White still dominates South Africa's top management position, constituting 72.6%. And you can go down. I'm not going to quote these numbers for you. You know them. But it's only that you are shameless in how you want to continue oppression. You know that. With these prevailing power relations, it is almost preposterous to ask why are reforms and more stringent measures introduced by this bill necessary. Despite the redress policies created by the post-apartheid government, led by our own ANC, the levels of inequality are still endemic amongst the whites and blacks, men and women. This is more evident in the Western Cape, where white males occupy almost 2/3 of all top management jobs, and that white females are more than all blacks combined at this level. A clear indication
Minister.
that the leadership in the
Honourable
province
Minister.
is hell-bent.
Can you just hold on?
Chair,
Honorable Sinclair.
Chairperson, I observed that you're enjoying the speech and that you're clapping your hands. My understanding is that
Honorable Sinclair, I happen to be an independent, emancipated black woman. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
all that I want to say, the chairperson
Honorable
is supposed to be
Sinclair,
independent.
get out. If you so wish, get out.
The chairperson must be independent.
Continue.
You mustn't clap hands, Honourable Chairperson, even if you enjoy it.
It's none of your business. It's my right.
Thank you very much. Hey, is it? And therefore, the majority of black people are unable to access credit since the bank uses the first class and first world lending models in a mixed economy. This is a true indication that the South African economy is still in the hands of the few. The minority market is also too narrow to provide a basis for expanded economic growth. And therefore, this in itself is exclusion. It must be noted the majority of black people today who have even entered white areas did so because of affirmative action. Because they are working. It is because of this intervention. Those who are opposing it, in essence, wants them to get out of their terrain. Consistent with the school of thought that argues that market forces must be allowed to determine what is best for the workplace, our detractors are up in arms fighting against legislation to transform the apartheid workplace. We would do well to remind them that the apartheid workplace regime, which ordained white workers with Baska powers and relegated black workers to mere ministers to white needs, was as much a product of state policy as it was of private sector collaborationism. So if you say give it to the private sector, you are saying let's give it to your friends to further destroy us. And you stand on the side, you are used to this. But what are the real underlying reasons behind this? Let us not shy away from the race issue because this is essentially the bone of contention here today. The DA confidently says that her party rejects the employment equity bill because, and I quote, there is nothing progressive about coercion that enforces racial quotas determined by unelected officials. And they say it is Verwoerdian social engineering. Let us indulge in this convoluted logic for a minute. Of course, there is consensus that racial identities are social constructs, but this is done not in any way. It does not mean that race is irrelevant or does not shape social relations and influence life chances in many societies, especially South Africa. It does not. In the same manner, honorable members, although gender identity is by and large a social construct, this doesn't make it irrelevant. Certainly, many women who reel under patriarchy in all facets of life would disagree with any suggestion that gender identity has no influence on life chances, experiences, and opportunities. The separation between race, established power relations, and material experience in South Africa is one that can only be carved out neatly in the comforts of a very skewed library armchair. Everyday experience confirms this assertion. But what do the defenders of this say? It is simply, we must not tamper with prevailing unequal power relations. This is what they want. And unfortunately, some of those who have been excluded also participate in this. It's so sad. My biggest fear, ladies and gentlemen, you must go and watch that movie called Django. You must go and watch that movie. I guarantee you, the anger that is boiling amongst black people who are looking at us as managers of their own destruction, when it rises, including that, your racial tendencies, your wanting to continually destroy our lives, the fact that we have forgiven you, you continue insulting even that grace. When our kids rise, you will not survive, nor will your own kids survive. We are doing this for the sake of this country. We are protecting this country. And unfortunately, you will be leaving because you've got many passports. And others won't be able to do so. Thank you very much.
I'll now call upon Honorable Gunda. Order. Honorable members, let's give Honorable Gunda a chance.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair, Honorable Minister, colleagues, and all protocol observed.
Honorable Chief Whip.
Can I formally ask Honorable Gunda to tell us who wrote his speech?
Are you going to answer?
I'm going to answer the question.
Are you going to answer?
I'm going to answer the question.
You can answer the question.
I wrote it myself, Honorable Chief Whip.
Okay.
Honorable Deputy Chair, indeed, this is a very important debate. And it's a debate that South Africa needs it. But in South Africa, we as South Africans, we need to acknowledge the imbalances of the past. We need to recognize that there was a lot of injustices. But the history of South Africa propels us to redress the imbalances of the past through economic empowerment and employment equity through fairness and the distributional justice to address the inequality in our society. We are one of the most inequality societies in the world. And the reason is because of our past. Honorable Deputy Chair, we support the programs that broaden opportunities for disadvantaged persons, and we acknowledge that disadvantage still significantly overlaps with race. We reject programs that seek only to help only a few of us. It needs to go to the ground. It needs to assist everyone at grassroots level. Honorable Deputy Chair, it is quite important that we support the appropriate measures to advance corrective action with a focus on investing in the long-term potential of employees and to promote diversity through training. We remain convinced that economic growth and associated job creation, as well as quality education, are the most powerful tools to achieve the universal acknowledged need to address and the evils.
Honorable Gunda, just hold on. Honorable Chief Whip.
Chairperson, can Honorable Gunda tell the House whether the ID still exists or he only exists as an organization?
I can answer that question, Honorable Deputy Chair. ID still exists. That's why I'm still a member of Parliament. And I'll be a member of Parliament until the 4th term comes to an end as an ID member.
Order. Continue.
Honorable Deputy Chair, Goldman Sachs 2 Decades of Freedom report released in this month. It shows that the government has failed to tackle unemployment completely. According to the report, unemployment in South Africa has increased significantly. The past 2 decades, narrow unemployment increased by 5.6% to 25.7%. Broad unemployment is now at 36.8%, up by 5.3%. As a South African need one priority, and that priority is to create sustainable jobs to redress and address the imbalances of the past.
Honorable members, no interjections.
I thank you, Chair.
I'll now call upon Honorable Tau, the young lion. Huh? The Tau, the lion.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. I must confess to the House that I intimidated Honorable Gunda by informing him that I went out and I said to him that I'm going to phone somebody from Nonzwagazi to listen to him while he debates, because he's going to agree with the DA by not supporting the bill. That is why he was found wanting as to whether if he's supporting the bill or not.
Chair, point of order. Honorable Deputy Chair, I would like to ask Honorable Tau to withdraw that because that's not true.
Honorable Deputy Chair, I want to assure the House that as somebody next to Honorable Gunda, I've seen the speech in black and white. He has decided to jump that sentence that Honorable Tau is talking about. So that is with me now.
Honorable Tau, can you succeed?
Thank you very much,
Proceed.
Deputy Chair. Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Minister, and Honorable Members.
Order.
Let us be reminded of the strategy and tactics of the African National Congress, which therefore affirms that the strategic goal of the National Democratic Revolution, as resolved in many conferences and also affirmed once more at the 53rd conference of the ANC, identifies three interrelated contradictions, which in the main are characterized by colonialism of a special type in South Africa. They are racial oppression, class superexploitation, and patriarchal relations of power. These antagonisms found expression in national oppression based on race, class, superexploitation directed against black workers, and the triple oppression of the mass of women based on their race, class position, and their gender. The main content of the National Democratic Revolution therefore remains the liberation of Africans in particular and blacks in general from political and socio-economic bondage. It means uplifting the quality of life of all South Africans, especially the poor, the majority of whom are African and female. Hence, our immediate strategic priority of this phase as the ANC-led government is to rid our country of the vestiges of apartheid colonialism and to launch the process of constructing a national democratic society. A democratic society whose main content would be the liberation, the national liberation of the largest and most oppressed group, for which at the heart of it is the African people. This strategic aim must govern and will always govern every aspect of the conduct of our struggle, whether it be in the formulation of policy in the sense of what we're doing today, or the creation of structures. The national character of the struggle must therefore dominate our approach. Ours must not be confused with the narrow chauvinistic nationalism of a previous epoch as advanced by the likes of the Democratic Alliance. Ours must not be confused with the classical drive by an elitist group amongst the oppressed people to gain ascendancy so that they can replace the oppressor in the exploitation of our masses. For instance, in the Western Cape, the DA is pursuing...
Honorable Dow, can you just hold on? Honorable members, the rule is cell phones must be switched off. I don't want to call you by name. Honorable member, if you can't switch off your phone, can you go outside and switch it off and come back? Continue.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I wanted to assert, Chair, that, for instance, in the Western Cape, The Democratic Alliance is pursuing an agenda that they normally refer to as a refugee agenda that is intended at purging and replacing African and colored managers with white Afrikaner males from other provinces throughout the country. The legislature, the various departments and offices of MECs, including the office of the Premier, are led by the so-called white Afrikaner workers who have been imported from other provinces as per the illusion of the DA. This is what they have done in the city of Cape Town as well. They have also ensured that our colored comrades and African managers are replaced with their DA cronies, or what they had come to term their own deployment strategy. As we speak, the Western Cape legislature is clogging the role of the Labour Court and the CCMA as a result of the lodges or claims and complaints that our people have lodged against the administration of the Western Cape. Our drive towards national emancipation is therefore in a very real way bound up with economic emancipation. We have suffered more than just national humiliation. Our people were deprived of their due in the country's wealth. Their skills were suppressed, and poverty and starvation was their life experience. The correction of this century's old economic injustice lies at the core of our national aspirations as the African National Congress. Honorable Chair, when I started, I informed you that the strategic priority of the ANC is to rid the country of the vestiges of apartheid colonialism and to launch the process of constructing a national democratic society. Hence, today, we are pursuing an agenda that is informed of the Employment Equity Act. The purpose of the bill, as we have already heard, is to advance and to promote equal opportunities and fair treatment in employment through the elimination of unfair discrimination. It is to redress the disadvantages in employment experiences by designated groups and ensure that designated groups their equitable representation in all occupational categories and levels in employment. In doing that, just to echo the words of the MEC of Finance from Gauteng, in actual fact, the notion of vervoerdenism, one then asked the question as to what was the philosophy then as introduced by Vervoer? Because what he said at that time when he took power was to ensure that the African child does not learn anything that the African child will not use. The African child should not learn mathematics, should not be skilled in order to be an engineer, should not be an accountant. Now today, what the African National Congress is doing is to undo exactly that, and we are accused of pursuing a Verwoerd agenda. He must definitely be turning in his grave. That people today are saying that the ANC is pursuing his agenda or being a Verwoerdian kind of a government. Our democratic political system is founded on political, socio-economic, and other human rights, which are enshrined in our country's constitution. The realization of these rights in actual practice requires, amongst the mobilization of the nation around a common vision of a kind of society we seek to attain, acting in partnership with all progressive forces who intend to make South Africa a better place for all, and not only for a particular sector or a particular group of our people. Therefore, this bill that we are dealing with today, as it has already been said even by the minister, that it seeks to address exactly the imbalances of the past and to create a society in which our children, our great children, will have a place to stay. Unlike the DA, which currently forces irreconcilable contradiction of wanting to reconcile its defense of racialized class privileges for its core constituency on the one hand, with the objective necessity of addressing the glaring racial, class, and gender inequalities still prevalent in South Africa today on the other hand. It cannot be that you want to balance one or reconcile it with another whilst we're negating the advancement of a cause that seeks to build a better society for our people. The two are in fundamental contradiction to each other, and therefore it is quite inconceivable that the DA can advance this cause. It is for that, Chair, as the African National Congress, we call on the Black Caucus of the Democratic Alliance to begin to see the light. We call on our people in Gugulethu, in Khayelitsha. We call on our people in Kgaleshiwe and many other places in Soweto, including the very Vusimaimane, to understand that this piece of legislation that we're dealing with today here, in actual fact, seeks to benefit him and his children and his great-grandchildren. We call on the Black Caucus to realize that today, finally, the DA has undressed itself, because now we can see the real DA, what it is.
Just hold on, just hold on. Honorable Faber,
Honorable Deputy
what's
Chair.
the point of order?
That's a point of order.
Sorry?
Point of order. The Democratic Alliance don't have a black caucus. We've got a diverse caucus. So Honorable Tau's misleading the House by saying the Democratic Alliance Black Caucus. I would like him to withdraw that statement, as the Democratic Alliance has no Black Caucus. We are a diverse caucus.
With due respect.
I want a ruling on that, Madam Chair.
With due respect, Honorable Faber, that's not a point of order. And can you allow the person who's on the podium reading the... No, don't consult. I'm talking to you. Thank you. Continue. Sit.
I wanted...
Sit. Continue. Honorable Tau.
But it's
continue.
Us.
Sit.
There's a point of order.
No further points of orders. No.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Like I said, I want to take this opportunity to echo the words of many South Africans who have taken upon themselves to call on the Black Caucus of the Democratic Alliance to realize that in actual fact their place in the Democratic Alliance is to advance an elitist cause that will never ever address the future of their children, and it is for them to realize that particular naked truth. And it is for that, honorable members, that I take this opportunity as the National Council of Provinces, as we go to our provinces, let us convene our structures, let us inform them of the kind of a hypocritic organization such as the DA do we have here. What a strategic house that today we are debating such a bill, because we are going to our provinces, we are going to our constituencies, and it is only fair that we we engage them on this particular bill and expose the DA for what it is. Thank you very much.
Before calling the next speaker, I would like to address all the honorable members here. At no point am I going to actually accept interruptions of privilege. Let's stick to what we're discussing here and nothing else. Thank you. I'll now call upon the Minister of Labour, the Honourable Oliphant.
Thank you. Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Chairperson, I think because of the time, I'm not going to respond to all issues. But firstly, let me thank the members from the Chairperson of the Select Committee and the members of the African National Congress by leading such a vibrant debate, and also thank those who supported the vote. I believe that, of course, COPE, precisely because they were trained by the African National Congress, that's why they understand the situation of this country for supporting the bill. But, Chairperson, let me just inform this House on how members of Parliament are elected, including the permanent delegates, by the African National Congress. They are elected by the people through the branches of the African National Congress. That is the difference between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, where you apply to become a member. So it is based on the interviews by the panel. You are not really representing the people, but you are representing the panel that has elected you. I'm raising these things, Chair, precisely because I think Honorable Lees has said they don't support the bill, probably because some business people don't support it. I just want to say to this House, Business Unity South Africa is represented to all the structures that are substructures of the United Nations, including SADC, ARLAC, B20, which is under G20, and the ILO itself, where they sign these conventions and agree that when we come back, we will enact our legislation. And I'm not sure whether they really understand who are those members. And unfortunately, Chair, this particular legislation emanates as well from the discussions that were held in the ILO, where the members of the Democratic Alliance were part of the delegation. One was from the National Assembly and one was from this particular House. They participated in the ILO and they agree on some of the issues that we're debating today. But it's unfortunate that the very same members who were represented in that delegation now are opposing the legislation. And as a country, in fact, the ILO has said we have done so well as a country and we are far advanced, and most of the countries wants to come and learn from us as a country. But Chairperson, I also want to just to respond on some of the issues that were also raised by Honorable Lees, particularly when it comes to the fines. Those who will be affected are those who will not be complying with the legislation. But those who will be complying, they won't be affected. Now he's saying the very same bill does not allow the economic growth. Now, we need to understand what is the meaning of that. Precisely because when you go to the mining sector, is he saying we have to allow a CEO who will be earning 954,000 rands a month, vis-a-vis a rock driller who is the key person in terms of that particular production to earn 15,000 rand a month? So I think he must be honest with himself first before he comes and raise those issues here. And at the same time, the very same issue when we talk about equal pay for equal work of the same value. You find that those who claim to be temporal employment agencies, they are paid full amount of a worker who is being employed through the labor brokers, but what they do, they cut that amount of money and take more profit. And then the worker will just go home with nothing. And we're not going to allow that in this country. And when we said as the African National Congress, Honorable Chair, we want a non-racial and non-sexist South Africa. This is exactly what we're doing. And when we're debating in the National Assembly on the 1913 Land Act, The leader of the opposition, Honorable Lindiwe Mazibuko, said the Democratic Alliance will participate in redressing the imbalances of the past. If then they are saying that, why are they not supporting this particular piece of legislation? And I think the people of South Africa will know what kind of people we are with here in this country. And also, there was a research that was done by the Department of Trade and Industry in the steel and mining sector, where they found that 70,000 artisans are classified as unqualified artisans, and they are not being paid for what they are doing as artisans. And they're being supervised by the people who don't have qualifications, who even have, one of them have standard 1 and the other one have standard 3. And then you are calling that you need to employ people with what kind of a qualification is standard 1 and standard 3? And Chairperson, I think that's what we're exactly doing. Honorable Gunda, you are talking about the skills.
Honorable Minister, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you.
To
Thank
wrap
you.
up.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Honorable Gunda, the ANC government has established the skills development and training in order to redress the very same challenges, because most of the employers will claim that the reason why they are not employing black people is because they don't have skills. But looking at the situation, we have discussed that with Honorable Blade Nzimande, that the sitters must come up with the criteria on how they are going to make sure that those who were previously disadvantaged are prioritized when it comes to skills training, but also that will allow a situation where the companies, when they promote or recruit people who has to do some work, should consider those who are previously disadvantaged, because they will now have skills. Let me thank the MEC and the Chair of Chairs for participating in this debate. And I must say, as the members of the African National Congress deployed in government, we will make sure that we continue to protect the vulnerable workers, because we're elected by the people based on the ANC policy, that is ANC manifesto, and we have to deliver on the promises that we've made. That is exactly what we're doing. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
That concludes the debate. Shall now put the question that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 63, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. Members will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Whippery will help us in cases where people can't vote electronically. The 3. Okay, may I get the results? May I get the result? "34 have voted in favor and 9 against. Majority has voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 675 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the ninth order of the day.
Consideration of Employment Services Bill, B38B, and of report of Select Committee on Labor and Public Enterprises thereon.
I now call upon Honorable Motsisi.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. The Select Committee on Labor and Public Enterprise.
Someone is debating. Don't talk loud.
Okay.
Continue.
Thank you. The Select Committee on Labor and Public Enterprises, having considered and made deliberations on the Employment Services Bill, B38/2013, on the 19th November 2013, wish to report to the House as follows. The Employment Services Bill's main objective is to contribute to the creation of more jobs, decent work, and sustainable livelihood. A broad view of this bill is to tackle one of the most worst challenges South Africa is currently facing, that of unemployment. In tackling this challenge, the bill recognizes the strategic role public employment services can play in the creation, promotion, and preservation of jobs, and is crafted in the manner that will assist employers, workers, work seekers to adapt to the changing labor market conditions. Key to the bill's objective is the establishment of employment services facilities that will provide free services to job seekers, such as registering for placement opportunities, referring registered job seekers to education and training institutions, and also providing career guidance and undecided job seekers. As we all know, there can be no employment opportunities if as a country we have low economic growth. It is for that reason that the bill chairperson proposes for the establishment of Productivity South Africa as a jurisdiction person to promote employment growth and productivity. Section 32 of the bill describes the functions of the Productivity South Africa as, amongst others, to measure and evaluate productivity in the workplace and to support initiatives aimed at preventing job losses. In addition, the bill allows the Minister of the Department of Labor to introduce schemes to promote the employment of work seekers and to assist employees facing retrenchment to remain in employment, and to promote the rehabilitation and re-entry into the employment of employees injured on duty or who have contracted an occupational disease. Furthermore, the bill allows the minister to also issue regulations requiring employers to register vacancies in specific categories of work so as to enable the department to conduct placement. The bill further, Deputy Chairperson, permits the minister to introduce regulations dealing with the employment of foreign nationals so as to protect the conditions of employment of South African citizens and permanent residents. To this effect, Section 8(1) of the bill stipulates as follows, quote, an employer may not employ a foreign national within the territory of the Republic of South Africa prior to such foreign national producing an applicable valid work permit issued in terms of the Immigration Act, close quote. This then means that the employer who has been abusing foreign nationals without valid work permits as cheap laborers will be violating the country's labor laws and will therefore have to face the full might of the law. We do acknowledge and also are aware of the fact that foreign nationals are paid slave wages and that they sleep in backyards of warehouses and companies. We have seen some of them in restaurants. Most of them, if they had to ask for better wages, they would be threatened with deportation. The DA, however, on the other hand, insists that such employers should have the right to hire or fire anyone at will. What is, however, more important about the bill is its endorsement of the re-establishment and functioning of the supported employment enterprises, formerly known as the protected employment factories, to provide employment opportunities for people with disabilities. These are people who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which in interacting with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. As a caring society, it is very crucial to ensure that no sections of our society or any category of our people is left behind of the development objectives of this nation due to no fault of their own. We are mindful again, Chairperson, that the DA's constituency is white big business, and also that the DA is very supportive to pass laws that would support big business. To see the naked truth about the DA policy, see how they vote on laws that are meant to transform the whole of South Africa, on laws that are expected to improve the living conditions of our people. Nation building thereof, therefore, is not a prerequisite for the Democratic Alliance. Supported employment enterprises, therefore, are meant not only to address and meet the employment needs of people with disabilities, but also to ensure that they are active participants in the country's agenda. In supporting this bill, we took into consideration the practical socio-economic realities faced by many of our people in the unemployment queue, and this includes dynamics in the labor market as shaped by the country's economic forces. Our support for the Employment Services Bill, therefore, is due mainly to its developmental approach in addressing one of the country's major challenges, namely unemployment. We agree to this proposed legislation with the best interest of our people at heart, and with only one objective, that is to create stability in the labor market while also opening up employment opportunities. Let the whole of South Africa know, therefore, that from the east to the west, from the north to the south, that the DA policies are taking South Africa back to apartheid. We support this bill. Thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. Shall put the question that the bill subject to the proposed amendments be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 63, I shall allow political parties to make their declaration vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. Members will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Have all members voted?
No. Yes.
The machine is slow.
Very slow.
Honorable
September. She's voted, okay. May I have the results? 31 in favor, 8 against. The majority has voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill subject to the proposed amendments agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 10th order of the day.
Consideration of South African Post Office SOC Limited Amendment Bill and of report of Select Committee on Labour and Public Enterprises thereon.
I'll call upon Honorable Mabija.
Ndikolivuwa mzula chidulo ndichilumedisa bathu bote buzulawo hapa na bene bala batukutuku buzulawo hapa la ndichindi maseari ndisahangwi na muhulwane Mutoni Pay bo minister basho.
Honorable Denbosisi, can you shift to your seat, please? Can you shift back to your seat?
Ndolivuwa ndo ndichikhadiri ndolivuwa ndoba ndichikhadi ndisahangwi na Mutoni Pay bahulwane basho bo minister basho ba labor na public enterprises rikolivuwa ngamandesa bahone bachikozwipfa bachikozwibona majela thukono rikhakhisa. Therefore, the Select Committee on Labour and Public Enterprises, having considered and made deliberations on the South African Post Office SOC Limited Amendment Bill B24-2013, on 20th November 2013, wish to report as follows. The South African Post Office SOC Limited Amendment Bills B24-2013 main objective is to satisfy the requirements of the Constitution in terms of the Bill of Rights, especially the right to equality before the law in managing the Post Office Retirement Fund. This is as a result of the Constitutional Court judgment that ruled in favor of Ms. Gwebu, who sought relief in the Constitutional Court that would allow her to obtain immediate payment of her share of the pension interest benefit from her former spouse pension fund. The Post and Telecommunications Related Matters Act of 1958 does not make provision for the clean break principle upon divorce, and this principle allows spouses to access their share of the pension benefit on divorce or dissolution of a customary marriage. For these reasons, the Post Office SOC Limited Amendment Bill B24-2013 seeks to amend the South African Post Office Limited Act of 2011 so as to update and transfer pension-related provisions of the South African Post Office from the Post and Telecommunications Related Matters Act of 1958 to the South African Post Office SOC Limited Act of 2011 in order to provide for the payment of pension benefits to a former spouse of a member on divorce or the dissolution of a customary marriage. In our deliberations on the bill and as legislators, we satisfied ourselves that those who might not have benefited from these clean break principles and who might have given up on their claims since the South African Post Office Act of 2011 did not address this matter will, on the enactment of this bill, be looked after in terms of their benefits and claims. As we looked closely at this bill, we realized the importance it gives to the country's constitution and the manner in which it translates the Bill of Rights to change the lives of our people. Moving towards conclusion, I have this to say. In the name of democracy, we, the people of South Africa, we pull down, we destroy, we condemn and close doors for the evil spirit looming in the supernatural. We feel, we see, we hear. And those spirits do not wish South Africans to enjoy a better life. I can assure you, this ANC government and the ANC itself will rule until kingdom comes. We are speaking with authority. We are in power. And this is going to happen. Therefore, as the Select Committee on Labor and Public Enterprises, we request the House to support this amendment to the bill. Ndolivuwa, we must remember, ANC is a broad church, and churches belong to the kingdom. Amen.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. The question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 63, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration if they so wish. We shall now proceed to voting on the question. Members will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. You'll raise your hands. Have the members voted? No. I will ask one member of the... It was slow, very slow. Is it now doing? It's now. Have you all voted? Who hasn't voted? Kunda? Honorable Kunda, did you vote? Could the table staff give me the results? Honorable Manzini, did you cast your vote? Yes. Did you vote in favor, against, or you abstained?
Against.
Huh?
Yes.
Against? Yes. Thank you. It wasn't recorded. Thirty-seven members in favor and 1 against. Majority has voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. Honorable members, is there a correction, Honorable
Yes,
Manzini?
Honorable Deputy Chair.
Yes,
In
sir.
fact, I pressed here. Then, unfortunately, it never showed
Okay.
Then I wanted to delete, then it showed the other way around. I want to correct that. Thank you.
I post order. Honorable Manzini, I posed a question direct to you. Did you vote in favor, against, or abstained?
No.
Can you note that? Because there's a discrepancy now. Secretary will read the 11th order.
But the only reason he voted, he was the only one was that he got a call.
Honorable Sinclair. Of the past. We're not going to go to the past right now. Anyway, honorable members, the bill has the 17th order of the day. 11, sorry. Listen.
You can understand and see the confusion from the confused Democrat Alliance. You know, he then decided to go. The current bill seeks to repeal section of 115 to 118 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and to enhance the functioning of the Commission. All sections of the current Act, although amended, have been retained in the bill, in which the definition of the human rights are broadened beyond the scope of those enshrined in the Constitution, including the relevant international and regional human rights instruments. The committee agreed to the South African Human Rights Commission bill without amendments, and therefore ask this House to second the bill. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable De Villiers, it's against the policy to hold your own separate debate when someone is on the podium. Please, I'm pleading with you. If you want to discuss something secret with your neighbor, do it softly. I'm not going to allow you to debate it.
Chairperson, I'm not going to debate it.
Sit down then.
Chairperson,
Sit
can I
down, do
just
me a
address
favor
you?
and sit down.
You only talk to me, and it's actually me and Honorable Tau who have that discussion.
Whoever. That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. Question is that the bill be agreed to in accordance with Rule 63. I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the questions. Members will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Have all the members voted? May I then get the report from the table? 39 have voted in favor. And that's, I declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 12th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Finance, review of the Limpopo intervention in terms of Section 100, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa.
I'll now call upon Honorable De Beer.
Honourable Chairperson, on the 5th of December 2011, the South African Cabinet announced its intervention in the Limpopo provincial government and province in accordance with Section 101B of the Constitution 1996. This placed 5 Limpopo provincial departments, namely the Provincial Treasury, Education, Transport, Roads, Health and Public Works, under National Executive Administration. The National Executive Intervention Team was guided by the constitutional provisions in how it undertook its task. The Select Committee for Finance, in terms of Rule 105 of the NCOP rules, conducted its work in consultation with, but also jointly with the Select Committees on Appropriations, Education and Recreation, Health, Social Services and Public Administration. And from the onset, Honourable Chairperson, when we started in reviewing the intervention, the objective was good governance, sound financial management, and enforcement of the PFMA. The analysis that was done by the National Treasury was a diagnostic analysis. Then came the action plans, the implementation of action plans, the recovery phase, and where we are now, the exit strategy. The Chief Administrator, Mr. Tom, made a presentation regarding the onslaught or the progress that was made in terms of the intervention. The intervention team and the Department of Public Service and Administration reviewed the Provincial Treasury's organizational structure and aligned it to the National Treasury generic structure for provincial treasuries. The Provincial Treasury and the Administrator are currently reducing the 583 planned posts in the Limpopo Treasury to between 350 and 380. The General Manager Infrastructure vacated office in October 2013 and the post is still to be advertised. The vacant head of the department post was filled in mid-December 2012. Key infrastructure management positions linked to the infrastructure delivery management system have been filled. The need for a skills audit of offices of the CFOs across the province, that's in all departments, was identified and was conducted across all provincial departments. The National Treasury is also already assisting in enhancing the capacity of officers of the chief risk officers in the province. Approval has been obtained to appoint a high-level CFO support team on a 2-year contract. The provincial supply chain management policy has also been reviewed. The training on SOPs and the implementation will be provided to all provincial departments. The province has reduced its unauthorized expenditure by 931 million rand. 821 million of that was funded from the Provincial Revenue Fund in the 2012-13 financial year, and the balance funded through the various departmental budgets. The outstanding unauthorized expenditure amounts to 1.4 billion, of which the province intends to finance 640 million in the 2013-14 financial year, and the balance over the MTF. The old outstanding unauthorized expenditure amounted to 1.7 billion. The Provincial Revenue Fund is liable for 1.4 billion and departments for 0.3 billion. The Chief Administrator, Mr. Tom, highlighted the following 5 systematic challenges that should be addressed within the next 4 months. That's infrastructure management, that's across the departments, competitive procurement, asset management, data and records management, and compliance and interpretation and enforcement. Then we also engaged on the chairperson with the anti-corruption task team. The National Treasury developed 27 forensic reports with the assistance of co-source firms, for example, Kobodo Forensic and Investigative Accounting and PricewaterhouseCoopers Incorporated. The reports were referred to the South African Police Service for criminal investigations and where necessary disciplinary processes would be instituted thereafter. Honourable Chairperson, I'm turning to the committee's observations and then recommendations. On the 12th of August 2013, Cabinet announced that the administration teams should start a 6-month period of handover to the Premier and his new executives. A 6-month period, not immediate upliftment as was noted in the press. The committee notes the challenges that still existed at RAL with regard to cooperation. This was mainly due to the instability related to the high vacancy rate in key positions. The committee notes the slow progress made by the Department of Public Service and Administration in executing its work in terms of dealing with the disciplinary cases. Also that the Department of Education paid its teachers much higher salaries than other provinces did. The slow progress made by the ATCC in executing its work in terms of dealing with the fraud and corruption. Also notes that the 5 departments still do not fully comply with the PFMA. Also note that some departments from the 5 under intervention have not finalized the staff organograms. And the committee noted that the sustainability of the intervention is a concern, as the 5 effective departments do not have sufficient capacity. Therefore, we recommend, Honourable Chairperson, that the Departments of Roads and Transport should prioritise the filling of key positions at RAL within 4 months after the adoption of this report by the House. The Department of Public Service and Administration and the Limpopo Provincial Department of Education should review the salary scales paid to educators in relation to other provinces. The Department of Public Service and Administration should ensure that disciplinary processes were fast-tracked so as to ensure that all those implicated would have been removed from the personnel system by the time the administration team exited. The Department of Public Service and Administration should monitor personnel against those officials that had transgressed the PFMA and were now getting employment from other departments and spheres of government. That the next 4 months should be treated as a transition to phase out the exit strategy in terms to lift the intervention. The 5 systematic challenges reported should be prioritized and remedies implemented within 4 months after the adoption of this report by the House. That the anti-corruption task team should fast-track the processing of fraud and corruption cases. That the Limpopo Provincial Administration should ensure compliance with the PFMA. And lastly, Honourable Chairperson, that the National Council of Provinces should approve the lifting of Section 101B of the intervention in Limpopo with the condition that the transition phase be entered into and that the administration team should hand over the provincial management by the 31st of March 2014. Chairperson, I move that the House adopts the report. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. I'll now put the question. The question is that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration if they so wish. Honorable de Villiers.
Declaration. Can I carry on? Thank you. Honourable Chair. The Western Cape acknowledged the progress made by the intervention team in Limpopo in bringing the cash flow crisis under control. We also acknowledge that there has been progress made within the management of the affected line departments. However, we agree with the Select Committee report in that there is yet work to be done during the handover period. There are many issues that remain unresolved and that must be put right before the final handover takes place. The foremost of these are the disciplinary cases that at last report exceeded 300, of which, despite the passage of nearly 2 years, not a single case had been concluded. Honourable Chairperson, it cannot happen that the administration will be handed back to the same people who created the pain and suffering for our people in Limpopo. Any incompetent and corrupt officials as well as corrupt politicians must be rooted out, and there must be consequences for their actions. Before the final handover, we must be reassured that service delivery has been fully restored and that amongst other issues, every school pupil has received 2014 books and stationery on time, that all hospital boilers are operational, that spending on exorbitant building leases is stopped, and that the squatter in the Polokwane Airport Lounge has been evicted. Honourable Chairperson, it is with these and other similar reservations that we support the report of the Select Committee and place on record that this support may be withdrawn if the concerns in the report, as well as those expressed by us, are not addressed. I thank you.
Declarations?
Yes. Honorable Chair, thank you very much. We, as the African National Congress, wish to raise our disappointment with regard to the reasons advanced by the Western Cape Democratic Alliance. Firstly, it shows the continued confusion that has been demonstrated by the party for the past 2 weeks until today.
Honorable Chane, I take it that your declaration is your province.
Yes.
Please,
Yes.
can you correct that?
Okay. On as Northwest Chair.
Okay.
Yes. No, I'm not confused. I'm not confused.
Order. Continue.
Yeah, Chairperson, we would want, as Northwest, would want to reject with contempt the allegations raised by the Western Cape, because it is not true, number one, that there's not even a single case concluded in Limpopo. There's been a number of arrests, there's been a number of disciplinary hearings where people have been dismissed. Where people have been dismissed, that is number one. So they are misleading this House. It is not correct that there's not been any improvement since the intervention. The improvement is well recorded, is well known by everybody, including the members of the Democratic Alliance from other provinces participating in the Committee of Finance. Those reports are there, and the Western Cape should have time to read all the 86 reports of the committee around this. Just minutes ago, Honorable De Beer has gone through a report that outlines the work that is being done in Limpopo. So it is not correct that people can come and raise declaration on the basis of false information in an honorable House of Parliament like this one. We want to object to that kind of thing, and as Northwest, wish to register our full support of the decisions of the committee to further demonstrate that they are confused as a province. They are raising a declaration, raising a number of incorrect issues and allegations that are unfounded, yet at the end they want to support the bill. What is it that they are supporting when they've got so much serious concerns? That shows that they are not honest with the public, they are not honest with South Africans, and they need to be exposed. Hence, we are doing this as Northwest. I thank you, Chair.
Are there any further declarations?
Deputy Chair, on behalf of the Northern Cape, in support of the Northwest, we want to make a declaration on one specific issue that was raised by the Western Cape, for which we find to be quite disturbing. In that once more the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape, which has proved or want to project itself as a people's administration that cares for our people, they make a declaration, and in their declaration they make the point that they will only support the report if our people are evicted. The squatters even refer to them as squatters. are evicted in Polokwane. What does that mean to our people? It clearly shows the extent to which the Democratic Alliance treats our people in Langa, treat our people in Guguletu, treat our people in other areas. I thought I'm making a declaration on behalf of my province.
Honorable De Villiers, could you sit down and let Honorable Tau finish off his declaration?
I want to put a point of order, Chairperson. There's
Okay,
no
Nico.
truth. There's no truth in that one.
Honorable De Villiers, is it a point of order?
Point of order, that was I saying.
No.
No.
Saying to you. Point of order. Point of order. Can I carry on?
If you so wish.
Excuse me, Chairperson.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Chairperson, never in our declaration we refer to squatters. We refer to one person inside the airport. It's not the truth.
It's a pity because I'm not allowed to talk on this, but I was listening. Continue, Honorable Tau.
Once more, Chair, on behalf of the ANC Northern Cape, I want to make the point that what I heard the honorable member saying there is that they can only support the report if our people are evicted, the squatters are evicted in the Polokwane city, and therefore we want to demonstrate, or we want to make the point that that's once more a demonstration of the extent to which the Democratic Alliance take our people. Thank you very much.
Honorable Faber.
Yes, Madam Chair. I don't know if Honorable Tau is just referring to people in the gym that squats, because I don't understand
That's not a
what
point
he
of
means.
order.
He must just
Sit
give us a
down.
clear definition.
Is there a further declaration? Okay, Honorable Member. Mabija.
Can everybody have this? Because I'm going to use my own language so that I can speak out my mind. Ndikolivuwa mzula chitulo. Ndikotama utahisa, ndichiko declare uri province ya Limpopo yo put vewa ka administration. This is the time ya uri ihumele murao. Sazwe muzula chidulo oima hapala. Osumbedzisa chiko sumbedza 1, 2, 3. Why ichiteya uri ihumele murao zwandani zwa leadership ya inoko uvusa Limpopo. Miloro he inokwambiwa nga DA. Asilo thoma richi ipfa. Ndoima hapala last year. Richikwamba ngamapungo azi textbook za Limpopo. Ndamba bathu bamfanga hezi. Ndichiri Limpopo. Vana zilearners za Limpopo. Abana na problem. They will make it at the end. Whether huna textbook kana huna nga riva improvise.
Honorable Mabija, can you just hold on? Honorable De Villiers.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to find out, is that the declaration from the Limpopo or is it a statement?
She actually said it loud and clear. It's a declaration from Limpopo.
And then freedom of speech ndiyambe heyo nje. Ndikweyamba nikotodori vasuphe zvabuti. Uri he South Africa ikoteyo udevelopa. And I rekotoda avingatendi rine vadzulapo va South Africa uri DA ingekho ri tanganyanyisa zithoho ngauri we know where we have been. We know where we are and we know where we are going. As Limpopo, go chairperson vamba no ways. Iko yo vuyelera intervention ya zanekedziwa administration za administrator. Vadoto vona futhi intervention yo thusa. Ndiko declare uri yo ri thusa una improvement khulu huna improvement khulu so DA kha vha tou dzula fhasi vhalale vhaledelele na mtuku.
Point of order. Can I ask you, is that the declaration in writing?
It's a declaration, once again, from Limpopo. Honorable de Villiers, there is a gadget for everybody to listen to what is being said in any other vernacular language, as much as we also listen to Afrikaans, or it could be Venda or whatever. Let us try and teach ourselves to use these gadgets. Then we won't have any problems. Thank you, Honorable Member.
I didn't have a problem with the language. Never.
But you kept on asking a question, is the declaration from Limpopo? When it was clearly stated, no, it was said from the very word go, Honorable de Villiers. Then listen. There was a further declaration from Honorable Mnguni. You had your paper up? Oh, okay, thanks. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote, if they so wish.
Ready.
We shall now proceed to voting on the question, and I shall do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. I now call on the provinces: Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northwest, Northern Cape, and Western Cape. I called you, sir.
Voted chairperson.
No, I'm talking to your neighbor with a red tie. You voted.
We vote in favor, chairperson.
Hmm? 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 13th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Finance, draft supply chain regulations issued in terms of the Financial Management of Parliament Act 2009, Act 10 of 2009.
I'll now call upon Honorable C.J. De Beer.
The Chairperson, procurement of goods and services and disposal and letting of assets by Parliament must comply with Section 217 of the Constitution 1996, Chapter 6 of the FMPA Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act, Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act. Draft supply chain management regulations were prescribed by the Executive Authority and published for public comment in the Government Gazette number 36130 on the 4th of February 2013 as required by Section 65(5) of the FMPA. The regulations cover the following information: guidelines for management of demand, acquisition, logistics, disposal and risk management. procurement processes for petty cash, written quotations, formal written price quotations, competitive bidding, participation in transversal contracts and other organs of state, unsolicited office, emergencies and exceptional circumstances. Procedures for bid committees, recommended acquisition to the accounting officer in the light of the delegation of an authority, that is section 10 of the FMPA. Governance issues consist of compulsory disclosure of conflict of interest of prospective suppliers bearing persons from participation. Combating abuse of supply chain management systems, the contract management, logistics management, and dispute resolution procedures, as well as a regular review of the supply chain management performance. Honourable Chairperson, the Select Committee on Finance, having considered and examined the draft supply chain management regulations issued in terms of the Financial Management of Parliament Act 209, Act number 10 of 2009, referred to it and tabled in terms of section 65(6) of the Act, reports that the draft supply chain regulations with amendments, and I shall move that the House adopts the report. Thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. Shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration, if they so wish. Should now proceed to the voting on the question. We'll do it in alphabetical order per province. Heads and delegation will be pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape? Free State?
Yarona.
Gauteng? KZN? Just gone to the... I will ask him when he comes back. Limpopo? Mpumalanga? Northern Cape? Northwest? Western Cape? What do we do? Okay, because Honorable I need the correct order. It should be 9. Mpumalanga, did you vote?
In favor.
And 1. Free State voted? Okay, they voted. So it's 7 plus 1. 7 provinces have voted in favor and 1 abstained. So majority against, and majority has voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 14th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs, Annex 6 to the Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctic Treaty, liability arising from environmental emergencies.
I'll now call upon Honorable Mohoro.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, and greetings to the Chief Whip and honorable members of, this distinguished House. This morning, I am given the opportunity to share with you the deliberation of the Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs held on the Annex 6 to the Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctica Treaty, liability arising from environmental emergencies. The Annex 6 to the Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctic Treaty, liability arising from the environmental emergencies stems from the Antarctica Treaty which South Africa signed in December 1959. Some were not even born here. This is a multilateral agreement to ensure that the Antarctica continent is used exclusively for peace and science purposes. The protocol on environmental protection with specific emphasis on the protection of the environment was signed in 1991, and the protocol was ratified by South Africa in 1995 and came into force in 1998. It must be noted that 1. South Africa's strong interest in preserving the pristine and sensitive Antarctic environment, its resources, and also to limit the impact of the man-made environmental emergencies for the future generation and the betterment of mankind. 2. Rectification with reduced risk and exposure to South Africa to environmental emergencies caused by activities launched from this country. 3. South Africa may be put in the position of having to respond to the environmental emergencies caused by activities under the normal jurisdiction of other countries. 4. A system of compensation will allow reimbursement of expenses for response action. 5. Liability annexed will not enter into force until all the 28 consultative parties to the Antarctica Treaty ratify it. Ratification of South Africa will reduce the risk and exposure to the environment. 6. Once approved by Parliament, the Antarctica Treaty Act 1996, Act number 60 of 1996, will have to be amended and regulation promulgated. No specific additional allocations are required on this will be implemented gradually using existing and projected funding allocation. The Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs, having considered the request for approval by Parliament of the liability Annex 6 to the Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctica Treaty, recommend that the Council, in terms of Section 2312 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, approve ratification of the protocol. I thank you, Deputy Chairperson.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order. Delegates will press in favor, against, or abstain buttons. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, Western Cape,
Voted, Chairperson.
Well, Afrikaans is one of the first 14 languages. It's a matter of choice. 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 15th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Appropriations, proposed division of revenue and the conditional grant allocations to provinces and local spheres of government as contained in the 2013 medium-term budget policy statement.
I'll now call upon Honorable Chane.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, the Minister of Finance tabled the medium-term budget policy statement on the 23rd of October this year, outlining the budget priorities of government for the medium-term estimates. In terms of the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act number 9 of 2009, committees on appropriations are required to consider and report on the proposed division of revenue and conditional grant allocation to the provinces and local government as contained in the MTBPS. The medium-term budget policy statement is based on the following fiscal stance principles: counter-cyclicality, debt sustainability, and intergenerational fairness fiscal policy. The following are the salient features of the 2013 medium-term budget policy statement. The budget policy statement for the next 3 years is designed to manage risk in a constrained fiscal environment while building a foundation for faster and more inclusive long-term growth. Non-interest expenditure is expected to grow in real terms, averaging 2.2% a year over the 3-year period. Distribution of resources is aligned to the National Development Plan priorities. Education and health continue to receive the largest allocation, accounting for 38.8% and 25.5% respectively. At the same time, there will be strong growth in budget relating to other priority areas such as infrastructure, jobs, local government, and community development. Measures to support faster economic growth will include investment in electricity and transport capacity, promotion of industrial competitiveness, and broad social cooperation to address challenges in mining and community development. The distribution of resources is found in line with the constitutional requirement for equitable distribution of revenue nationally raised amongst the 3 spheres of government. National departments receive 47.6%, provinces 43.4%, and local government 9% in the 2014-15 budget. The committees are, however, concerned that despite this equitable distribution, there are some disjuncture between funding and functions in some cases. The committee made some recommendations in this regard. The proposed allocation should promote predictability and certainty in respect of all allocations to various spheres of government in order that provinces and municipalities may plan their budgets over a multi-year period and thereby promote better coordination between policy, planning and budgeting. The committee hoped that this will help in reducing the amount of rollovers and underspending. One of the objectives of the Division of Revenue Act is to promote transparency and accountability in the resources allocation process by ensuring that all allocations are reflected on the budgets of provinces and municipalities, and by ensuring that the expenditure of conditional grants is reported on by the receiving provincial departments and municipalities. The committee has made recommendations to the National Treasury to ensure that payment schedules are clearly stipulated. The committee has further made some recommendations that government should ensure that there is adequate budgeting and also effective spending on maintenance and repairs of assets by all spheres of government. The committee has further noted the reasons advanced by the National Treasury to restructure and reduce funding to certain grants due to underspending. Although the committee is of the view that this might have unintended consequences, at the same time, the committee hopes this might also send a strong message in receiving institutions. The committee, in conclusion, Chair,
noted that the distribution of the resources is within the current fiscal space. It is in line with the constitutional requirements for equitable distribution and also aligned to the priorities of the National Development Plan. And having considered the medium-term budget policy statement and submissions made by stakeholders and provinces, the committee recommends that the adoption of the proposed division of revenue as presented in the MTBPS. I so move, Chair, and thank you.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declarations, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and Western Cape. 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I would now afford members the opportunity to bid each other farewell, since today is our last sitting for the year. I'll now call upon our chairperson of the NCOP, MJ Mahlangu.
Thank you, Chairperson. I can just see you that you are very hungry. We'll try to be very short. Thank you, Chairperson. I want to thank you for the opportunity again just to say a few words of farewell today as we part to our provinces. As you will realize, we are nearing the end of the electoral mandate period of the 4th Parliament. The Constitution makes provision for election of representative of national and provincial legislature every 5 years. As a nation, we are poised once again to fully exercise our political rights, which are entrenched in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, that is the Bill of Rights. These rights which are extended to the citizens across the land, including the right to campaign for a political party or cause and to free, fair and regular elections. They are also including a right to form a political party. I see there are many of them uprising these days. I hope there's nobody who's going to form another one from tomorrow in this house. Not in this house. Okay. Their rights are part of the freedom we entrenched in 1994. In fact, in 1993, South Africa was a country in the past. Today, in 2013, we see a nation that is uniting. We see a nation that is seeking amid sea of challenges to improve the quality of life of all the citizens of South Africa. We see a nation that is in conversation with itself about how best to correct the wrongs of the past. At the beginning of this term, we observed that the 4th Parliament provided a significant opportunity for the NCOP to enhance its legislative oversight and participation activities programs. That the NCOP appeared better positioned to carry out its mandate in its 2nd decade of existence, given that its first 10 years were characterized by intense scrutiny of its work and how it functioned. 2013 provided a very important opportunity to move towards the end of the term with great confidence and sense of achievement in line with our predictions in 2009. Indeed, Chairperson, we enhance our legislative oversight and public participation activities. The value that you, as delegates to the NCOP, added to some of the pieces of legislation that were before the House was noticeable. Among many, the members of Parliament in the National Assembly, Honorable Dinsma Zakot, praised the National Council for the improvements that were made in the Protection of State Information Bill. She noted, I quote her, open quote, "It is clear that the NCOP was determined to achieve constitutionality," close quote. The Select Committee on Trade and International Relations, led by Honorable D. Kamete, saw through its pursuit from last year of implementation of credit amnesty to ease the burden of poor South Africans. You will recall, honorable members, that this is one of the matters we had identified as part of our legacy proposed by Honorable Kamete. The proposal was agreed by the Cabinet, and the National Credit Amnesty Bill, introduced by the Minister of Trade and Industry, is before the National Assembly as we speak. I think you need to praise yourself and say you've done a very good job. Through your efforts, honorable delegates, we have managed to shine the light on the work that government is doing by means of our oversight vehicles. Through the implementation of taking Parliament to the people over the years, including the very successful programs in Mpumalanga and Gauteng this year, we have achieved a lot in fulfilling constitutional mandate of this House. Among other things, we have ensured that the people from even the most rural part of the country get the information they need and participate in the process of Parliament. We have ensured that people engage directly with their local, provincial, and national leaders, including ministers, thus promoting public accountability. We have ensured that we go back to the issues people raised, as we did with regard to KwaZulu-Natal, Engutu, where we sat during the course of the year. As such, we have contributed to South Africa becoming an open society where challenges facing the people are discussed in an open manner. You know, it was very interesting, just to tell you in 1 minute, a very surprising story. I get these stories every time, but I'll tell you one. This week, as I was seated in the office, the phone rang, and it was a person honorable, it's not honorable, Mr. Molwana, from Chief Whip, where's that place where you come from? From Emalahleni, where we visited, taking Parliament to people. You remember that? Where we went to. He says to me, Mr. Mahlangu, thank you very much. I said, why? He says, the work that the NCOP has done is very great. The stadium where you had a venue and we discussed with your delegation is now repaired, is finally functioning, and we want to thank you. That's all what I want to tell you. That's what he says to me. These are the stories that the people are telling us, and these are the stories that we should tell as we go out, that this program is a program that is well received by the people on the ground, and it does bring improvement, and it touches them, touches their hearts, and plays a very vital role for the oversight function and for government to act. The freedom of expression that the people of South Africa enjoy today is a dream in some of the countries we have had the opportunity to visit over the years. So we must be proud as a nation. I would like to thank you all your great efforts in carrying the banner of the NCOP. It is your contribution, honorable members, to the future of this country, and I welcome it, and I want to thank the Chief Whip and the team of the whips that she is leading for the wonderful support that you gave the institution. And I want to thank all the chairpersons and the House chairpersons who are leading those chairpersons to process legislation, come up with programs for oversight and public participation wonderful work that we have done. But every delegate that has participated in the work of the committee, thank the staff that has supported us all the time at the table, wherever we are, in our work, in our offices. All of you, thank the Deputy Chair and other presiding officers for carrying their work so successfully as we run towards the end of this term. I thank you all, and please take time to have a bit of a rest during your Christmas holiday. Thank you very much.
I'll now call upon Honorable Boroto.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable members, special delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, they've gone. Today we are concluding yet another very momentous year, and one of the busiest of our honorable members and commitment of the Council. Allow me to convey the profound appreciation of the ANC to each and every one of the honorable members of our Council for your resilience and utmost commitment throughout the year and the term. Mqinisihlalo, ngivuye futhi ngibawe ukuthatha leli thuba ukuthokoza amalungu wombutho abereke ngokuziqhenya nokuzimisela ekuphakamiseni umongo waka ANC wokuchokulula impilo zabantu ngokuleader i-National Transformation Agenda. Eqinisweni siyazi ukuthi kube nzima, siyazi ukuthi njenge African National Congress siphethwe imanifesto esiyenzile, sizame ngamandla wonke ukuthi konke lokho sakuthembisa abantu bakithi sikwenze sisonke. Ngaphandle kokuthi kukhona abazakakarela emva, abazafuna ukuthi sikakarele into zemva zingachukulula impilo, njengaloko ukuthi nakuvotwako bavote baqale ukuthi konje sivota siphakamisa bani. Umbuso ophethe kwa African National Congress uthi asicala ukuthi siphakamisa ubani, kodwa sifanele siyenze impilo zabantu bonke abahlala eSouth Africa zibe ngcono. Ngifuna ukuthokoza futhi Chairperson umbereko wamakomiti wonke weParliament, kakhulukazi nama plenaries asibe nawo kulendlu, ngama mechanisms wonke we National Africa we NCOP awukuthi ama mechanism wakhona aricha abantu, siriche abantu ngama mechanism ahlukene nge taking parliament to the people, siriche abantu ngama provincial weeks, siriche abantu ngamalanga nasijamela sikhuluma nabantu njenga namhlanje lokho kwenzekile. Sitsho njalo sithi sithokoza ukuzimisela kwenu amalunga walendlu ehloniphekile, ama debates wenu are robust, ama questions asiwaraisile kulendlu. Sitsho sithi sithokoze nakusalga in its absentia ngokuthi si make sure ukuthi i-NCOP is the only house ekhona ukuhlanganisa wonke ama spheres of government ahlangene. Sitsho njalo sibonga kumalungu wale committee sithi nisibongele nakuma province wenu asupportile ukufikela namhlanje. Honorable Chairperson, ngibawa futhi ukuthi ngithi we also continue with our work to hold the executive accountable. We have done so because we are aware that accountability and high sense of our responsibility in the governance and the affairs of the people is the bedrock of our democracy. It is also our collective duty as the representatives of the people to protect and to defend our democratic ideals. Ekugcineni ngifuna ukutsho ukuthi namhlanje i-sitting yethu yokudina njenge-council. Sithi, njengoba sizokhamba siya kuma-constituency wethu, asikhambe sikhulume i-story. Sikhulume i-story sa the new democratic South Africa. Ukuthi amalunga wonke wa NCOP azimisele ukuthi i-story sethu sokuthi sichukulule impilo zabantu sisivesile. Singafiki sisabe ukukhuluma umbereko besiwenza kule ndlu lesikuyo. Aribereke mbyalo rere go batho rere ibang le tshepo libe le tshepo ya gore mmusho ona wa African National Congress o sa tlo tswela pele go make sure gore ditirelo di ya bathong, o sa tlo go tswela pele go make sure gore batho ba ba le khutso, batho ba ba le lethabo pelong tša bona. We want to thank again our staff, the council, the staff of the council, with their utmost dedication and commitment. You have all demonstrated that you are true servants of the public. As we depart from this precincts of Parliament today, si drive siye emakhaya siyo ma destination wethu, asihambeni kahle, sibatshele lapha siya khona ukuthi izindlela aziphephe kulesikhathi lesi esiyakiso, isikhathi saka Christmas. Asibuyeni siphila sonke unyaka ozayo, sisebenzisane kodwa singakhohlwa ukuthi sisebenzela umphakathi wase South Africa, si ANC si leader kuleyo. Akuyathokoza. Ngicela isihlalo.
Honorable Liz. Honorable Liz.
Thanks for the encouragement, George. Honourable Chair, has the NCOP had a busy year? I have no doubt that it has. Has the NCOP had a productive year? On balance, I believe that it has. Honourable Chair, there have been issues of considerable importance to our country on which we have not all agreed. This is true. However, Honourable Chair, there has also been much that we have all agreed upon. I wish to focus neither on what we have disagreed on nor what we have agreed on. What I wish to emphasize is the mature manner with which members, with few exceptions, have dealt with disagreements. Our debates may well have been robust, and so they should be. But the essence of a liberal democracy is the degree of tolerance we display for each other's points of view. Honourable Chair, I believe that this House has been an example of maturity to be followed by others. For this, I wish to thank the members from all political parties in the NCOP. Honourable Chair, whilst we will be back here early next year, most of us will leave here today and head straight into election work for next year's elections. May we go about this election work robustly, but with the same maturity that we have displayed in our deliberations here in Parliament. May we set an example for the members of our parties that will be based on wisdom and respect for each other, whatever party we support and whatever the views that others may have. Honourable Chair, the DA thanks Honourable Mahlangu and Chief Whip Ntwanambi and all officers and officials of the NCOP who have served us all with dedication over the past year. Honourable Mahlangu, it has been a privilege to be a part of the House under your leadership for the past year, and we look forward to the rest of our term with you. In conclusion, I would wish all members of this House and all its dedicated officials a restful and peaceful holiday season. Thank you.
Honorable Makubele.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much for this my privilege to address you on this historic day. This is the 5th yes, we are here, I would like to mention the following. We have started so well. We didn't know each other. We came as a group like this. We were introduced to different fields of activities. Allow me to point the following. I'll be failing in my duty if I'm not going to acknowledge the following people. The chairperson of this House, I don't know how to describe your leadership. You are so objective and everything, the whole quality of leadership is Honorable Memela. Mama, you earned this name. You earned this name by the hard work you deputize your chairperson very nicely. But when I met you here, I thought the saga of Luhurutsi, I said, no, I'm fired. But you were good. Honorable Magaja, wonderful. The House Chair, Honorable Tau, you were so good leading these people. We appreciate that. And the provincial whip, Livuan, she took us here, and then, we didn't know that there's an AC and COPE. We were wonderful. And I would like also to acknowledge the committees, the chairperson of my committees, finance, appropriation, land environment, cooperative development, and traditional affairs. And it is through these committees in the House which I learned the dynamic of the Parliament. I thank you very, very much. I know that some of you are not going to come back, but make sure that we've done something. Taking Parliament to the people is a project that we must definitely stick on. People are very much appreciative of this. I thank you very much.
Honorable Kunda.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chair, Honorable Chair, Chief Whip, colleagues, all protocol observed. Usually when we arrive at this time of the year, we tend to reflect what happened during the past year, and with the inner inspection, we sometimes regret decisions we have made and we wish to change them. Honorable Chair, as we reflect on how far we have come as a fourth Parliament, it is impossible not to acknowledge the role people have played to make our task easier and to enjoy our work. By that, Chair, I mean the staff who have supported us and assisted us throughout this 5 years. And sometimes it was under difficult circumstances, and sometimes we as members can be difficult, and yet the staff supported us, and they make us look like champions. And I would like here, Chair, even to say in the committees that I've served, especially security cluster and COCTA, I appreciate that staff very much, really, and the office of the Chief Whip. I appreciate them because, Chair, many a times they have bailed us out. Honorable Chair, to my colleagues, every member that sits here today, I would like to say, and I mean it, you are an excellent team. You are brilliant in your thinking. Sometimes we disagree to agree, but yet I've never seen one of us become personal, even if we disagree on the issue. That's a sign of maturity. That's a sign of leaders. That's a sign that you can take this country wherever you want to take it because of the quality that's inside of you. And I strongly believe that with these qualities that has been demonstrated, we have veterans amongst us. Honorable Mohoro, Honorable Delmon, veterans amongst us, people that can even teach you further how to do the work. Honorable Chair, let me come and say to the leadership of the NCOP, and that I include the whole leadership of the NCOP, the Chair, the Deputy Chair, the Chief Whip, the House Chairs, and all chairpersons. I would like to say to you and the entire staff of Parliament, a glorious, a prosperous, a peaceful and a blessed festive season, and a very good 2014. May we see each other again in the new year and enjoy it, and God bless you.
Honorable M. Zulu.
Mphathi sihlalo amalungu ahloniphekile lendlu ngithi nami igama leqembu lenkatha yenkululeko angihalaliswe ukuthi ngibonge ukuthi ubuholi obutshengiswe usihlalo womkhandlu wezifundazwe nephini lakhe uchief whip nabonke oyihlalo amahwipha onke akhona kulendlu namalungu ahloniphekile sibonge ukuthi sisebenzisane kahle kusuka eminyakeni ka-2009 kuze kube manje engethemba ukuthi nomngane wami omkhulu noma asahamba oyihlalela phansi umazosiwa lapha khona babetshengisa ubuholi obukhona kuwo wonke umuntu okhona lapha endlini ngithi ngibongeke labasebenzi baleli parliament ukuthi besibekezelele ngoba sizalwe emzini engafani kukhona abathatha ukukhulu njengamalungu eParliament bebethatha bekhweze phe kwabanye abantu kube kungafanele noma umuntu esephutheni kuyafuneka umbonise ukuthi cha indlela ohamba ngayo ayikho right kodwa ke ekubongeni kwethu egameni lenkembu lenkatha yenkululeko ngithi ngibonga ukuthi umoya wenu enisebenza ngawo lapho umoya omuhle nalama kuthathwe iParliament liye kubantu nalapho kuye kwenzeke khona abantu banikeze ithubo lokuthi bekhulume ngalokho abakuthandayo nabangakuthandi ngibuye ngilaphe ukuthi idemocracy ikhomba ukuthi lokho sasikufundiswa uprofessor emfundweni ephakeme ukuthi idemocracy kofanele iphikiswa izindlo abangabuyanga inxa yezifo uNkulunkulu bephumule ngokuthula ngibonge mphathi sihlalo
House chairpersons, honorable whips and chairpersons of committees, honorable members of the Democratic Parliament. We are aware that this year was a very momentous and busiest for our great strides and for showing great commitment in advancing our work and making sure that we change the lives of our people. This year alone, we convened 34 plenaries, and we debated issues that were drawn from the motions. We've taken Parliament to people, as we had said, and we've done quite a lot. There was quite improvement as well, Chair. We're indeed humbled that many of our honorable members are taking heed to our call to build an activist parliament that proactively responds to the challenges facing our people. This was done through our select committees and how we've been really conducting ourselves. Honorable Deputy Chair, the important role of the NCOP in the evolution of our young nation is reflected in the advances that our council is making in deepening our democratic systems and ensuring that more people, especially those in our provinces, become involved in our parliamentary processes. We are also grateful about the participation of various political parties in putting the needs of our people first and making sure that we continue to work together despite some of the political differences that we may have. Chairperson, your outstanding work and dedication demonstrates your courage to work tirelessly for our people who have been ravaged by centuries of apartheid, underdevelopment, and systemic exclusion. In a few days' time, our nation will mark the beginning of the 16 days of activism against gender violence campaign to highlight the scourge of violence against women and children. We must all join various activities organized in our communities to make a call to our communities to speak out, stand out, and commit ourselves to preventing violence against women and children in our communities. We must encourage them not to look away, but act and speak out against violence and abuse of women and children in our communities. Allow me, Chair, to pass our profound appreciation to our staff members, and I want to be specific here, Chair, and say, whilst I include everybody in the NCOP, but I also want to say those who worked directly with me in my office. Without them, I don't think the House would have been successful. Our success is really dependent on them. Thank you so much for all the support you gave us. I also, lastly, Chair, wish you and your families a happy festive season and a prosperous new year. Lastly, as the Irish blessing and farewell toast says, may the road rise up to meet you, may the sun shine warm upon your face, and the rain fall softly on your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you and your families in the hollow of his hand. And I want to really honestly and sincerely thank you, honorable members, for all the support you've given me. Without the respect I have always really been afforded in the House, I don't think we would have been successful. Thank you for continuing to support us. Thank you.
That concludes the business of the day. Honorable members, you are requested to remain standing until the procession has left the House. The House is adjourned. Ek Vietnam.